Meeting number 11 will now come to order. May we have the playing of the national anthem. Councilmember Faber, would you please lead us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Councilmember. This evening, Council is appreciative to have Pastor Amy Aspey, pastor of Short North Church, to pray with us. Pastor, thank you for joining.
Thank you for having me. Let us pray. God of us all and not just some, may our work be a source of blessing for not just some people, but all people. In the weariness of this year-long pandemic, we are thankful for signs of hope that bloom like this new spring. May our service be a sign and a source of hope for those who need it most. We never know the heaviness that people carry, so may we excel at kindness. And as we gather, we know people are grieving and hurting from loss, acts of hate, the weaponization of privilege, and the complicity of silence. May our work honor your sacred image found in everything and everyone. And may our decisions support dignity, belonging, and worth. Trouble us with the troubles of our people. Disturb us when justice isn't reached. Encourage us when we are weary. Free us from the need to be right if being wrong leads us to doing what is right for the common good. And through it all, remind us there isn't an us and them. There is us, and we need each other. Please bless our families as our work impacts those closest to us in countless ways. And may our city be a more just and loving place because of our leadership. In the name of all that is holy, amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you so much, Pastor, for joining us again. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Brown, Dorans, Favor, Remy, Tyson, President Harden.
Can I get a motion to dispense with the reading of the journal?
So moved.
Second.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Brown, Dorans, Favor, Remy, Tyson, President Harden.
This week's communication received by the city auditor or city clerk's office are listed on the agenda and will be published into the record. Are there any other communications to be read into the record?
Not at this time.
Thank you. Are there any resolutions by my council members, starting with President Pro Tem?
No resolutions, Council President, but I have one announcement. I will be holding a virtual public hearing this Wednesday, March 24th, starting at 4 p.m. We will review the Recreation and Parks Department's Urban Forestry Master Plan, which lays out the strategic and long-term investment in Columbus's urban tree canopy. A healthy tree canopy improves air quality, prevents erosion from runoff, reduces the urban heat island effect, lowers utility bills for residents, helps mitigate the impacts of climate change, and simply makes our city a healthier and more beautiful place to live. Preserving and expanding our tree canopy in every neighborhood is a critical investment for the future of our city, especially for neighborhoods that need additional tree coverage the most. The hearing will be live streamed on our YouTube channel and Facebook page. Any resident who would like to provide public comment during the hearing, we welcome that. You should email my legislative assistant, James Carmine, at jwcarmine, which is CARMEAN, and as in Nancy, at columbus.gov by noon on Wednesday. The plan can be viewed at columbusufmp.org, and public comments can be submitted via that site through the 31st of this month. Thank you, Council President. That's all I have.
Thank you. Sorry about that. Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Mitch Brown.
Nothing this evening, sir.
Thank you, sir. Councilmember Dorrance.
Nothing tonight other than go Bobcats.
Councilmember Favor.
Nothing for me, thank you.
All right. Councilmember Remy.
Thank you very much, Council President Harden. This evening I would like to bring forward Resolution 47X 2021 to denounce anti-Asian hate, discrimination, and violence in Columbus, Ohio. Whereas Columbus City Council is reaffirming our commitment to our Asian and Asian American residents in Columbus, Ohio, and denouncing anti-Asian hate, discrimination, and violence in all forms. On Tuesday, March 16, 2021, 8 victims, 6 of which were Asian women, were murdered in a heinous crime in Georgia. And whereas harassment and violence against Asian persons, families, and communities have increased since the start of COVID-19 pandemic due to inflammatory and racist rhetoric, and whereas according to Stop AAPI Hate, in the last year, there were nearly 3,800 instances of discrimination against Asians that were reported at an increase of more than 150%, with 68% of these incidences affecting Asian women. The number of unreported instances of discrimination against Asians in the U.S. is unknown. And whereas anti-Asian sentiments are not new in our country, and we acknowledge history and trauma related to the intersections of racism, sexism, and xenophobia, and whereas the rising anti-Asian sentiment, especially against East Asian and Southeast Asian ethnicities related to COVID-19, has no place in our country and no place in our city. Asian and Asian American residents are our neighbors, frontline workers, and friends. And whereas the city of Columbus is a welcoming city, home to thousands of residents and students from Asian countries, and we thrive on the diversity of these residents, in particular, our Asian American residents are crucial to our success. And whereas Columbus City Council denounces all forms of hate against Asian Americans in Columbus and throughout our country. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Council of the City of Columbus that this council does hereby denounce anti-Asian hate, discrimination, and violence in the City of Columbus. This past Saturday, Council President Harden, Mayor Ginther, and I attended the Stop the Hate rally at Bicentennial Park, organized by Columbus residents Lynn Ta and Mickey Goto. We gathered to show our support to our AAPI residents, neighbors, and friends in this difficult time. When one of our neighbors suffers, we all suffer. And today we are focusing on our Asian and Asian American neighbors, not only to denounce hate, but to support and uplift the contributions and accomplishments of this community in our city. Last fall, I was proud to join my council colleagues as we declared racism a public health crisis. Reaffirming this commitment and that resolution is this resolution today to Columbus, Ohio, hate has no home. Of Asian American Community Services. Aaron, thank you for joining us this evening, especially considering the circumstances. I'm so thankful you could be here this evening, and I'll turn the floor over to you now.
Thank you, Councilmember Remy, Council President Harden, and members of the council. I actually have had firsthand experience of racism as being a Japanese American. Also, because of the many calls AACS has been receiving and asking for comment, we have put together a short statement for those calling us. Asian American Community Services is deeply saddened by the senseless loss of life resulting in the shootings in Georgia. We call upon all of our allies to stand with us against racism and hate in all of its forms. Although violence and discrimination against Asian Americans is nothing new, we cannot ignore the broader context that such anti-Asian racism has been on the rise since the beginning of COVID-19 pandemic. We also must acknowledge the intersecting and compounding forces of marginalization, which places certain populations like the low-income minority women who were murdered on March 16th in the vulnerable position of working with the public during the pandemic. We stand in solidarity with all communities experiencing marginalization. Join us in the fight to end racism, sexism, and xenophobia. AHCS supports those in the Central Ohio community by providing comprehensive services to victims of hate crimes and other forms of violence, discrimination, and bullying. We encourage those who are struggling with fear, uncertainty, and grief to reach out for help, whether to a trusted friend, family member, community advocate, or to a professional counselor. Those experiencing mental health crisis are urged to call 911. Help is also available over 150 languages by calling the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. Being Japanese American, I have been asked to speak about my family and my experience in the internment camps locally at West High School, Westerville, Worthington, and Bexley libraries, and more recently with the Ohio History Connection on Remembrance Day, which was February 19. We were interned in Gila Bend, Arizona, not far from Phoenix, on a Native American reservation. We were there from the time I was about 3 years old to 5 years old. So I only have one recollection during camp, which had to do with the loyalty oath, and on the train back from the internment camp was the second. I remember my sister, who was about 2 at the time, and I was 5. We're going through the car of all Caucasian faces. That look I have experienced throughout my life, and most recently, just going to the grocery store in the early days of the pandemic. Since I was so young, I had to interview my brothers and sisters and in order to give my talks. They all said it was worse after leaving camp. The second earliest memory I have was that I was awakened by a large noise and the screeching of tires. I have, my sister told me later that they found a bullet in the side of the wood frame house of my uncle's, where we stayed a short time after leaving camp. I remember how my heart was beating so hard at the time. I think that's why I remember that. After coming to Columbus in 1972, I remember seeing a national, on the national news, some Detroit auto workers bashing in a Honda with a baseball bat. I turned to my husband and said, the next time that will be a person. 2 weeks later, Vincent Chen, a Chinese American, was killed with a baseball bat. No one is immune from these racist actions and words, and all who have experienced racism must come together to stop this. I am grateful to the council for this resolution, which is steps toward that end. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Jobu, so much for sharing your story. I would like to open up the floor to my colleagues. Does anybody have any comments or questions they'd like to share this evening? I see Councilmember Tyson.
Thank you, Councilman Remy. I just want to, again, just give my condolences for the lives that were lost in Atlanta, but also, again, as you mentioned, we did pass a resolution, racism is a public health crisis. And again, racism, we don't want any of our residents to have to experience racism. And I really do appreciate Ms. Jabu sharing her story with us today. And again, we want to be able to make sure that we're treating everybody with dignity and respect. So again, my condolences to you, and this council certainly does stand behind that resolution. Thank you, Councilmember Remy.
Councilmember Remy.
Yes, Councilmember Favor.
Ms. Jabu, thank you for sharing your story with us this evening, as well as our residents. I appreciate my colleague for bringing this resolution on behalf of this legislative body. We obviously stand in support of our Asian American and Asian residents in Columbus and across this country. We stand against hate and racism in all forms. We have our full support, and we will continue to advocate to the best of our ability to end violence against our Asian brothers and sisters. Thank you for being here this evening and for sharing your truth. Thank you, Councilman.
Thank you, Councilmember Favor. Council Pro Tem Brown.
Thank you so much, Councilmember. Thank you for coming to share your story. I know that it's not always easy to have to relive that, and so we appreciate you not only coming to share it with us, but to all the residents who are watching, whether it's on television or online. And as you know, your voice is so important because it's been an absolutely gut-wrenching last week in learning the stories of these women who were brutally murdered, learning the stories of their families who will never get to see them again. And they were brutally taken from them. And any loss of life is a tragedy, but it is especially tragic when hate and violence and racism are involved. So thank you for being a voice and being here. And these council members here stand with our AAPI community in the city of Columbus. The community makes us the city that we are. So we, again, appreciate, it's not always easy to tell your story, and we appreciate your willingness to do it. Thank you, Councilmember Remy.
Thank you, President Pro Tem Brown. Ms. Jobu, I do have a question. How can residents reach out to you and the Asian American Community Services organization?
Yes, you could call 614-220-4023 and press 6 to leave a message, or you can call me directly, actually, at 614-570-3518, as well as my email address, kjobu@acsohio.org.
Thank you so much. Again, we appreciate you being here this evening. It's a true honor to stand in solidarity and help lift up and support the AAPI community. I'd also like to take a moment to highlight that we received one piece of written testimony in response to this resolution from Jonah Hilario with OPAL. I thank you for reaching out and for all of the important work this organization does for Ohio AAPI women and non-binary people. And I look forward to working with you. If there are no other comments or questions, Council President, I'd like to send this resolution. I move for passage.
Second.
Thank you again, Councilmember Remy, for bringing this resolution. As we said on this weekend, love always wins. And in Columbus, I think this resolution is a part of that, conquering hate. So please call the roll.
Brown, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy Tyson, President Harden.
Resolution is adopted.
And thank you, Council President. That's all I have this evening.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Tyson.
Thank you, President Harden. Again, this is Women's History Month, and March is designated this month. And as we concluded a month set aside to honor Black excellence and the great but complicated history of Black people in America, there is an understanding that we must highlight the contributions always of marginalized populations in our country. And today's Women's History Month salute recognizes Madam C.J. Walker. Madam C.J. Walker created a specialized hair products for African-American hair care and was one of the first African-American women to become a self-made millionaire. Madam C.J. Walker invented a line of African-American hair products after suffering from a scalp ailment that resulted in her own hair loss. She promoted her products by traveling around the country giving lectures and demonstrations, and eventually established Madam C.J. Walker Laboratories to manufacture cosmetics and train sales beauticians. Her business acumen led her to be one of the first African-American women to become a self-made millionaire. She is also known for her philanthropic endeavors, including a donation for the construction of an Indianapolis YMCA in 1913. Her life was portrayed in the 2020 TV show Self-Made with Octavia Spencer portraying Madam C.J. Walker. The Black Girl Soar TV program. The next episode and our final season finale is tomorrow, episode 4, entitled Black Girl Soar. Will be broadcast tomorrow on CTV on Tuesday the 23rd at 8 p.m. And it's also going to be on YouTube tomorrow at 8 p.m. And so I hope that if you have a Black girl that's 11 to 22, or any girls, please watch YouTube or watch CTV for our season finale. I also want to have an announcement regarding Primary One Health Special Enrollment. And again, the special enrollment period is February the 15th through May 15th. And Primary One certified application counselors can assist you in signing up for Medicaid and market exchange insurance. You can call 614-620-8088. This enrollment period is for a period of 90 days, and it is so important because we realize that one of the reasons that we found in terms of Minority Health Month that individuals do not have health care, and they don't have access to health care, but because of our relationship with Primary One, our funding of Primary One, if you need services or need health care, please contact them. Also, on this Sunday, March the 28th, the Links Incorporated, the Columbus chapter, will be hosting a COVID-19 virtual town hall, and it's sponsored by NAMI Franklin County, Columbus City Schools, the City of Columbus, and the National Medical Association. The panelists will be Congresswoman Joyce Beatty, Aaliyah McDougall, again, the National President of the National Medical Association, Dr. Mashika Roberts, as well as Rachel Martin. And so, again, it will be this Sunday from 4 to 5. And also you can go on YouTube for COVID-19, links COVID-19. And Columbus Public Health, again, is offering clinics for your vaccines, and new registrations open on each Friday. So when our Columbus residents and our Worthington residents are saying they are not able to get their vaccine, every Friday, Columbus Public Health opens a registration. If you if you want to email, you can email health@columbus.gov or dial 614-645-6444. So new registrations are open every week. And the last announcement I want to make is that we're having Somali vaccine clinics. There'll be one March the 23rd at the Islamic Center on Industrial Mile, and on the 25th we will have one at the Somali Community Association on the 25th. And to register, dial 614-645-7649. And that's all of my announcements this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Council Member. Picking up what you're talking about with our COVID information, as is custom with Council, wanted to update us on our vaccinations so far. As of today, Columbus Public Health has administered just shy of 70,000 total vaccines. Across all providers in Franklin County, more than 284,000 vaccines have been administered. That means that almost 22% of our county has received at least one dose at this point. Do any of our representatives from Public Health have any more comments? I think Councilmember Tyson, Chair Tyson, hit on how you can sign up to be vaccinated, but I just wanted to give the opportunity if Public Health wanted to add anything. Mike.
Thank you, Council President Harden. No, I greatly appreciate that. And, Columbus Public Health and many other partners in the community, including all the major hospital systems, Kroger, Giant Eagle, CVS, and Walgreens. Everybody's pretty much coming together to make sure vaccine is available. And it's good to be not the only game in town. So knowing that we're being successful at the Celeste Center every day, giving out about 1,800 vaccines every day through our drive-through, that there are other options in the community. And Councilmember Tyson mentioned a couple of the special for those in the socially vulnerable populations that we'll be holding over the next 3 or 4 days. So other than that, we're glad the vaccine is here. It's becoming more and more available, and we continue to encourage all those eligible to become vaccinated.
Well, thank you, sir. And just a reminder, though, that the virus is still amongst us, so we still have to continue to wear our masks, social distance, and wash and sanitize our hands after we're out. So thank you so much. Thank you to all Public Health for all you're doing to keep us safe. Yes, ma'am.
Make one more comment. I also want to mention that next week they will be providing vaccines for those 16 years and up. And so I'm excited about that. But I also want to say a special thank you to Columbus Public Health. I've heard from so many residents that are giving compliments to the team at the Celeste Center as they go to get their vaccines. They're saying it is just like a well-oiled machine there, and they're very grateful to have that opportunity. But again, a special thank you to everyone, to our EMS team, the Columbus Public Health staff that are working really diligently to provide the vaccine. And they're also providing them on Saturdays, because I know some individuals have stated that it's generally from 9 to 4, but we also on Tuesdays and Wednesdays it's 11:30 to 6, and on Saturdays from 9 to 4. So they're trying to make it at the Celeste Center available again, so that everyone has the opportunity to come. And then, as Michael said, we have all these partners that are also providing the vaccine. So thank you.
No, thank you. Get all the information out so we can all get vaccinated. All right. Are there any comments by other elected officials? Our city auditor, I see Ms. Auditor Kilgore, Ms. Baker-Morrish, and I don't see anyone with the judiciary. At this time, I would request the following ordinance be removed from the consent action portion of the agenda. We have Ordinance 0283-2021 from the Finance Committee. Are there any other requests by members of council for the removal of an ordinance from the consent portion of the agenda? Seeing none, may we now have a motion to waive reading of titles of third-day legislation?
So moved.
Second.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy Tyson, President Hart.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Will the clerk now read into the record the ordinance of number of 30-day legislation.
Finance Committee Ordinance 562-2021, Recreation and Parks Committee Ordinances 616 and 636, 637-2021, Public Utilities Committee Ordinances 466, 574, 604, 605, 607, 613, 619, 625, and 646-2021. Public Service and Transportation Committee Ordinance 275-2021, Economic Development Committee Ordinance 670-2021, Rules and Reference Committee Ordinance 474-2021, Zoning Committee Ordinances 349, 350, 680, 681, 682, 698, and 699-2021.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. We don't seeing no any questions or comments on the consent portion or on the first reading. Seeing we don't have any speakers. The following ordinance appear on our agenda as consent action. Will the clerk now read those ordinances into the record, please?
Resolutions of expression 43X, 44X, and 45X-2021. Finance Committee Ordinances 555, 593, 647-2021. Recreation and Parks Committee Ordinances 327, 564, 589, 590, 594, 617, 622, 638, and 639-2021. Education Committee Ordinance 628-2021. Public Safety Committee Ordinance 270, 602, 608, and 627-2021. Public Utilities Committee Ordinances 581 and 582-2021. Neighborhoods Committee Ordinance 473-2021. Technology Committee Ordinances 463, 489, 541, 558-2021. Public Service and Transportation Committee Resolution 33X-2021 and Ordinances 389, 426, 486, 492, 511, 512, 560, 572, and 577-2021. Housing Committee Ordinance 677-2021. Economic Development Committee Ordinance 669-2021. Environment Committee Ordinance 585-2021. Health and Human Services Committee Ordinances 422, 542, 544, 553, 601-2021. Workforce Development Committee Ordinance 671-2021. And appointments from the Mayor's Office numbered A0030, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 61, 62, 63, 64, 65, 66, 67, 69, and 70-2021.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Are there any questions or comments on the consent portion of the agenda? Seeing none, may I have a motion for approval of these items designated as consent actions?
So moved.
Second.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy Tyson, President Harden.
The consent agenda is passed.
Was there, Councilmember, I'm sorry, was there a abstention? Did that change?
There was, my apologies. That is correct. We should do a voice vote on that.
Right.
So
Yes.
we should get a motion to reconsider President Harden.
May I have a motion to reconsider?
Second.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy Tyson, President Harden.
Reconsidered. May I have a motion to approve these items designated as consent by voice?
So moved.
So moved.
Second.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Ms. Brown,
Yes.
Mr. Brown,
Yes.
Mr. Dorans,
Yes.
Ms. Favor,
Yes, with the exception of, I'm trying to get to it, 572-2021.
Mr. Remy,
Yes.
Ms. Tyson,
Yes.
President Harden.
Yes. Consent agenda is passed with the noted exception. Thank you so much, Councilmember Tyson, for that. We will now proceed with reading of 30-day legislation. The first committee to come before council is the Finance Committee, is chaired by Councilmember President Pro Tem. President Pro Tem, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Tonight in Finance, we have Ordinance 566-2021 to authorize the Finance and Management Director to enter into contract for the option to purchase armored car services with Loomis Armored US LLC to authorize the expenditure of $1 from General Budget Reservation BRPO 001343 to waive the provisions of competitive bidding and to declare an emergency. Also, I am losing my voice, so you are going to hear some up and downs. I apologize. The city treasurer is the primary user of armored car services for the pickup and delivery of currency, bagged coin, checks, and documents for the city and the Franklin County Municipal Clerk. There are only 2 known providers of armored car services in Central Ohio, with the other being the current contract holder with the city. The current contract holder made changes to their terms and conditions that are non-negotiable and unacceptable to the city. Therefore, a waiver of competitive bidding is being considered and an agreement will be negotiated with Loomis Armored by the purchasing office. Are there any questions or comments from council members? Seeing none, hearing none, I move for passage.
Second.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy Tyson, President Harden.
Pass.
Thank you. Next, we have Ordinance 726-2021 to authorize the Director of the Department of Finance and Management to enter into a memorandum of understanding with the Franklin County Board of Commissioners that outlines the terms for the purchase of property for the future construction of a new building to house the municipal court operations and city offices associated with the court, and to declare an emergency. The MOU being authorized through this ordinance outlines the terms for the city's acquisition of property located at the southeast corner of Mound and High for future construction of a new muni court building. The court currently operates out of a building that was built in 1979 and is leased by the city from Franklin County, the owner of that building. Director Lombardi, can you please briefly talk about the decision to construct a new building versus continuing to pay for the high cost of ongoing maintenance of the building where the municipal court currently operates?
Thank you, President Harden, President Pro Tem Brown, other members of council. Thank you for your consideration of Ordinance 726-2021. This is the first and of an important step in this process. As you mentioned, the current municipal court building located at 375 South High Street was built in 1979, and the Franklin County Municipal Courts is one of the busiest in the state of Ohio, with nearly 1 million visitors annually. The 345,000 square foot, 18th floor building houses the Office of the Municipal Court Judges, the Franklin County Municipal Clerk, and the City Prosecutor's Office. As with any building, there has been much wear and tear on the facility, and the building does not address modern needs of a current court system. A study was completed in 2012 that provided that major upgrades were needed to modernize the building in areas including structural, operational, technology, and functionality. The estimated cost at that time was $91 million and would take 7 years to complete. Over the last few years, the city has made a capital investment of nearly $18 million in renovations to address some of the needs, such as new windows, new elevators, office renovations, and mechanical fixes. However, these renovations and maintenance projects are just the tip of the iceberg of what is needed to create a modern court system. Maintenance issues continue to exist, including a recent plumbing problem causing water damage in some courtrooms and other office areas. It was determined that to fully modernize the current facility would take several years, additional capital investments, and would more likely disrupt the various operations in the building. In May 2019, Columbus voters approved a $1 billion bond package, which included $130 million in authority for this project. Therefore, I believe it is in the best interest of the city that the city begin the process of constructing a new municipal courthouse that would allow for a more modern operation. I want to thank the mayor's office for their guidance and leadership, especially Chief of Staff Ken Paul, and my staff, Ann Kelly, and Deputy Director Kathy Owens for all their work during the negotiations of this MOU. Thank you, President Pro Tem Brown. And if there are other questions, I can answer.
Great. Thank you, Director. Again, emergency actions being considered so the property can be secured and work to design and construct the new building can begin as soon as possible. Are there any questions or comments from my colleagues for the Director? All right.
Liz, I'm Councilmember Brown.
Please.
Sorry. Director, this is to Director Lombardi. Director, I just want to again say thank you. I certainly remember those days in 2012 to hear about the water leakage and the flooding and the all the issues and concerns that were happening with the building as the judges and the staff there were continuing to move the business of the courts forward. So it's exciting to be able to see this new building begin to the planning of this new space, to be able to make sure that as individuals are utilizing that building, that we have one of the most modern facilities for the staff, the judges, and the individuals that are coming into our system. So thank you for your hard work, your team's hard work, and the administration to move this forward. Thank you, President Pro Tem Brown.
Thank you so much, Council Member. That is exactly exactly right. Are there any other questions or comments? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Second.
Please call the roll.
Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, Tyson, President Harden.
Great. And then we need to go back to consent, page 7 for Ordinance 0283-2021. And Director Lombardi, I'm going to look to you again because we pulled this off because of a last minute amendment. And I know that there are positions being moved into public safety from the division HR positions, crisis intervention workers at CPH. But the one piece of the amendment we didn't get background on yet was the finance position. So I just wanted to ask that before I brought the amendment forward.
Sure. Thank you, President Harden, President Pro Tem Brown, other members of council. There have been several positions in the finance department that have been vacant for over 2 years, and we needed 4 positions in the finance department to keep up with the demand of not only the budget, but with the CARES Act and additional work that we're doing with that. We can no longer not go without those positions. I guess I'll take the blame. I did not tell my staff that we needed those 4 positions. I thought we had the authorized strength, and so therefore we needed to increase the authorized strength to be able to allow us to immediately start hiring those positions.
Okay, thank you, Director. So this is the authorized strength ordinance, and the amendment represents some tweaks in authorized strength for CPH, public safety, and finance. Are there any questions from my colleagues about, I'll read the title and everything, but are there any questions from colleagues about the amendment to the authorized strength? All right, seeing none. Did so much talking, I didn't get to scroll back to page 7 yet. Okay, to establish a new authorized strength ordinance for various, this is Ordinance 0283-2021, to establish a new authorized strength ordinance for various divisions in the city of Columbus to be consistent with the adopted 2021 budget, to repeal Ordinance 2693-2020 and to declare an emergency. So this is the standard annual ordinance where we repeal last year's authorized strength to put in place this year's to give hiring authority to various departments. So I would first like to move to amend as submitted to the clerk.
Second.
Second.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, Tyson, President Harden.
Amended.
I'd next like to move for passage as amended.
Second.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, Tyson, President Harden.
Passed.
Great, thank you. And I'd like to move to education next for my final ordinances, Council President. In Education Committee, first we have Ordinance 0629-2021 to authorize the Director of the Department of Education to enter into a contract with Future Ready Columbus for activities related to the goal of achieving every child in Columbus being ready for kindergarten, to authorize the expenditure of $400,000 from the general fund and to declare an emergency. Through this contract, Future Ready Columbus is developing a comprehensive birth to 5 plan to support the long-term development and success of all Columbus children by ensuring they are prepared for kindergarten. That is one simple phrase, prepared for kindergarten, that means so much. And tonight we're joined by Jane Leach, who is Executive Director of Future Ready, to provide an update on this work. Jane, thank you for being here. The virtual floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair Brown, President Hardin, and members of City Council. Thanks for the opportunity to share with you the work of Future Ready Columbus, a prenatal to age 5 collective impact with the systems approach to the one single goal that Chair Brown mentioned, and that is to ensure that all children in the city of Columbus are ready for kindergarten by 2030. Now, the reason that's such a big deal is because when children enter kindergarten ready, it changes their life trajectory, which then positively influences the families and thus the communities. And we have a crisis in our community because only 40% of our children enter kindergarten ready. So when you add to that racial and economic disparities, they are having an even further devastating impact on our youngsters. Additionally, we know that 90% of a child's brain develops before kindergarten, and that's why the prenatal to age 5 focus is so critically important, because it capitalizes on a period when brains grow and flourish at an exponential rate. So we have created a kindergarten readiness plan called Future Ready by 5, and it has been developed with community, and not for community. And we're now asking, in our phase of development, we're asking all residents in the city of Columbus to make their voice heard on this plan. So I'm asking everyone on this screen and anyone listening to visit futurereadycolumbus.org and take just 10 minutes of your time to answer 8 questions that will influence the final plan that will be announced later this summer. So the perspectives and the insight of residents in this city will shape the future of this plan, which will shape the future of our children, which will shape the future of our city. So to Chair Brown and President Hardin and members of the City Council, I express great appreciation and gratitude for your support of Future Ready Columbus and Future Ready by 5.
Thank you so much, Jane. I appreciate the update and the call to action for how we can all be involved. So much happens in that brain before a child turns 5, and that is why this goal is so important. I hope we all know this. I hope everything that Jane said was old news to all of us, because that means the message is starting to get through. So thank you again. And are there any questions from my colleagues? Okay, I don't think I see any. So I move for passage.
Second.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy Tyson, President Hardin.
Passed.
Great. And then my final ordinance is in education also, and it is 0633-2021 to authorize and direct the Director of the Department of Education to enter into renewal contracts with high-quality pre-kindergarten organizations that provide educational services, to waive the competitive bidding provisions of the Columbus City Codes, to authorize the expenditure of up to $2,603,384 from the general fund, and to declare an emergency. This funding is for the Early Start Columbus program, which expands access to high-quality pre-kindergarten classrooms in partnership with Columbus City schools and community-based providers. Early Start Columbus helps make high-quality pre-K affordable for eligible low-income families. And these dollars in particular are leveraged with funds from the Ohio Department of Education and the Ohio Department of Jobs and Family Services to make our funding stretch as far as possible to maximize the number of children and families we serve. The past year of pandemic restrictions made it clearer than ever that childcare is vital infrastructure which supports families and our entire economy. When parents have a safe place to drop their kids off each day, they have the security they need to maintain employment, advance their careers, and ultimately provide increased economic security for their families across Columbus. And childcare supports the development and success of our children. By the time a child reaches the age of 5, 90% of their brain has developed, making the progression from birth to kindergarten the most significant brain development period in their life. That is why the Early Start Columbus program and the Birth to 5 plan are such important investments. We know that quality early education significantly improves literacy, language, and math skills. Children who reach kindergarten academically ready are more likely to succeed in school and throughout life. I'm proud to continue supporting Early Start through this ordinance, and I'm grateful to Matt Smido and Sierra Adams with the Department of Education. Their ongoing work makes these important investments possible. And their ongoing work also made it possible for us to provide as much support as we could to our providers throughout the last year. Any questions from colleagues? All right. Seeing none, I move for passage.
Second.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy Tyson, President Harden.
Passed.
I'm muted. That's all I have. Thank you, Council President.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Madam Chair. The next committee to come before council is the Public Safety Committee. That committee is chaired by Councilmember Brown. Councilmember, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Council President. Tonight, I have Ordinance 0233-2021 to authorize the Public Safety Director on behalf of the Division of Fire to enter into a contract for a preventative maintenance agreement and to purchase parts, accessories, and supplies on an ongoing basis with Stryker Sales Corporation, LLC, for the maintenance and repair of Stryker Power Load cots for use in daily emergency services and emergency medical service operations, to waive the competitive bidding provisions of the Columbus City Code, and to authorize the expenditure of $110,543 from the general fund and to declare an emergency. This evening, Deputy Director Dan Giangardella is here to speak why the competitive bidding provision has been waived. Dan G., the floor is yours, sir.
Thank you, sir. President Harden, Chair Mitch Brown, members of for a number of years now as a heavy-duty power cot used on EMS vehicles. That's been our standard. And obviously, this waiver is to allow us to get replacement parts and services to repair those cots. Again, this Stryker does not have a local service rep. We purchase these parts and services directly from them, so we're able to negotiate some pricing with them, and that is the reason for the bid waiver. The supply contract is not bid out directly. I'd be happy to answer any other questions if council has them. Thank you. I appreciate your consideration of this ordinance this evening.
If there are no questions from my colleagues, I move for passage of this legislation.
Second.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy Tyson, President Harden.
Passed.
That's all I have this evening, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Next committee to come before council is the Public Utilities Committee. That committee is chaired by Councilmember Dorans. Councilmember, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Council President. Tonight in the Public Utilities Committee, I have ordinance number 0223-2021 to authorize the Director of Public Utilities to modify and increase a service contract with Cenes USA Inc. for the Enhanced Meter Project, and to authorize the expenditure of up to $2,303,586.03 from the Electricity Operating Fund. The enhanced meter project will replace outdated and underperforming meters, install radio transmitting infrastructure to allow for wireless reading relayed to a central location, and to provide an environmentally efficient way to read water meters. The project will also greatly enhance customer service capabilities, make improvements to operational efficiency, and provide increased revenue protection. It is also expected to have a positive environmental impact by reducing the number of vehicles on our roads. Do any of my colleagues have any questions or comments? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy Tyson, President Harden.
Pass.
Thank you. Next, I have ordinance number 0419-2021 to authorize the Director of Public Utilities to enter an agreement with HDR Engineering, Inc. for the professional engineering services for the Division of Sewerage and Drainage Electrical Upgrades Project, and to authorize the expenditure of up to $2,187,466.84 from the Sanitary General Obligation Bond Fund. The purpose of this project is to identify and plan replacement of electrical infrastructure that is no longer supported or has commercially available spare parts. Outdated equipment represents increased risk of failure and permit violations at our Jackson Pike and Southerly wastewater treatment plants, the Southwest composting facility, and collection pump systems. Do any of my colleagues have any questions or comments? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Second.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy Tyson, President Harden.
Pass.
Thank you. Next, we have ordinance number 0457-2021 to authorize the Director of Public Utilities to enter into a construction contract with Kenmore Construction Co. for the Hapcremene Water Plant, Accure and High Service Pump Monitoring Improvements Project, to authorize a transfer and expenditure of up to $3,187,500 within the Water General Obligation Voted Bond Fund to provide for payment of prevailing wage services to the Department of Public Service for the Division of Water, and to authorize an amendment to the 2020 capital improvement budget. The actuators and high and low service pumps are integral parts of the water treatment at Hapcremene Water Plant Systems, which supplies potable water to more than half of Greater Columbus area. New actuaries and reduced maintenance costs and increased reliability, while the installation of the vibrating monitoring systems at the high and low level surface pumps will improve our ability to detect and diagnose problems before they occur. Do any of my colleagues have any questions or comments? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Second.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy Tyson, President Harden.
Passed.
Thank you. Next, I have ordinance number 0475-2021 to authorize the Director of Public Utilities to enter an agreement with DLZ Ohio, Inc. for the professional engineering services for the Northwest Stormwater Study Project for the Division of Sewer and Drainage Stormwater Section, to authorize a transfer of up to $1,432,836 and an expenditure in the amount of up to $1,814,784 from and within the Storm Sewer Bond Fund, and to amend the 2020 capital improvement budget. Some areas in the city's northwest area can experience significant flooding and drainage issue during large storms. This also exacerbates infiltration into the sanitary sewer system, leading to overflows in water in folks' basements. The work for this study includes records research, field reconnaissance, building a computerized model to analyze the storm water drainage systems, identification of deficiencies in the existing system, and development of better systems, which will lead to a decrease in overflows and basement floodings. A welcome result, hopefully, for many in the northwest part of the city. Do any of my colleagues have any questions or comments? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Second.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy Tyson, President Harden.
Passed.
And finally, in the Public Utilities Committee, we have ordinance number 0626-2021 to authorize the Director of Public Utilities to modify and increase a contract with CNS USA, Inc. for the ongoing software, hardware, and maintenance of the system that is required as part of the enhanced meter project for the Division of Water, to authorize the expenditure of $1,350,000 and declare an emergency. During negotiations with CNS USA for the enhanced meter project, the department determined that using a software as-is service and managed services model is in the best interest of the city and the Division of Water. The operating contract is for the ongoing operation and maintenance of the system and the software to ensure the system implemented as part of the enhanced meter project is usable. This ordinance is being submitted as emergency in order to expedite the approval of the modification to avoid any delays in paying invoices. Do my colleagues have any questions or comments? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Second.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Brown, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy Tyson, President Harden.
Passed.
Thank you. And with your permission, Council President, I'd like to move to the Neighborhoods Committee.
Please.
Thank you. In the Neighborhoods Committee, we have Ordinance 0679-2021 to authorize the Director of the Department of Neighborhoods to enter a grant agreement with the Community Development for All People, Community for New Directions, the Columbus Urban League, and Legacy U in a total amount of $288,000 to add a needed capacity to address COVID-19 specific services for boys and young men of color, to authorize expenditure of the related expenses starting March 1st, 2021, in an amount of up to $288,000 from the CARES Act fund, and to declare an emergency. As we all know, the COVID-19 pandemic caused unforeseen challenges related to virtual learning, and the needed support for that support continues today. Council President Harden, as the co-sponsors of the legislation, you've been leading this charge with us, and I turn it over to you to speak more about these efforts. Council President?
Thank you so much, Chair. Thank you for your leadership. I'm happy to help support these learning extension centers, particularly centers that are focused on serving boys and young men of color. Last week, I went to Africentric to help welcome back our students as they return to in-person learning, but they're only there a few days a week. Parents still need assistance supporting their kids while they're working. I appreciate the Department of Neighborhoods, the Department of Education, the Mayor's Office, Columbus City Schools, and I know I can, for all continuing to work together to help our kids during this difficult time. Learning extension centers offer a safe environment where kids can learn with caring adults. This legislation allows these 4 sites to either continue operating or host even more young folks in their space. So thank you, Councilmember, and I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you, Council President. Some folks know that I'm a volunteer in the Big Brothers program to a young man of color, and we were actually just texting this past weekend about how school's been going, and it's very easy a year into this to forget the challenges that are facing students and families every single day for a year. So this is yet another way with Council President's leadership that we at Council are trying to do our best to provide meaningful resources for these students. And with that, if there are any questions or comments from my colleagues, seeing none, I now move for passage.
Is there a second?
Second.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Brown, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy Tyson, President Harden.
Passed.
Thank you, President Harden. That is all I have in my committees this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The next committee to come before Council is the Service and Transportation Committee. That committee is chaired by Councilmember Faber. Councilmember, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Council President Harden. Tonight in Public Service and Transportation, we have Ordinance 404-2021 to appropriate and transfer funds between the Brewery District TIF Debt Service Fund and the Brewery District TIF Capital Fund, and between the Wagner Road TIF Debt Service Fund and the Wagner Road TIF Capital Fund, to appropriate and transfer funds between projects within the Morse Road TIF Capital Fund, to appropriate funds within the Brewery TIF Capital Fund, the Wagner Road Capital Fund, and the Morse Road TIF Capital Fund, to authorize the Director of Public Service to enter into contract with Double Z Construction Company for the King Lincoln District Long Street, Garfield Avenue, Monroe Avenue, and Talmadge Street project, to authorize the expenditure of up to $3,602,619.72 from the Brewery TIF Capital Fund, the Morse Road TIF Capital Fund, and the Wagner Road Capital Fund to pay for the project and to declare an emergency. This ordinance authorizes the Director of Public Service to enter into contract with Double Z Construction Company for the King Lincoln District Long Street Garfield Avenue project and to provide for payment for construction administration and inspection services. This contract for streetscape improvements includes reconstructing Long Street from Garfield Avenue to Monroe Avenue, the first east-west alley north of Long Street from Garfield Avenue to Talmadge Street, and Talmadge Street from the first alley north of Long Street to approximately 150 feet north. Garfield Avenue from Long Street to Mamie Moore Place, and Monroe Avenue from Long Street to approximately 300 feet north of Long Street will be resurfaced. Other work includes storm sewer, water main, sidewalks, street lighting, electric duct bank, and communications duct bank, and other work as may be necessary to complete the event. Funds to complete the project will be contributed from the Brewery District 1, Morse Road, and Wagoner TIFs. Are there any questions or comments by my colleagues? Seeing none, I'd move for passage.
Second.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Brown, Brown, Dorans, favor Remy Tyson, President Harden.
Yes.
Thank you. Council President, may I move on to housing?
Please.
Up in housing, we have Ordinance 688-2021 to authorize the Director of Department of Development to execute any and all necessary agreements and deeds for conveyance of title of one parcel of real property, 956 East Chittenden Avenue, held in the land bank pursuant to the Land Reutilization Program, and declare emergency. At this time, I'd like to ask John Turner, the city's land bank administrator, to provide us with a few more details on this ordinance, as well as give us a brief update on the land bank and the Central Ohio Community Land Trust. Mr. Turner, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Councilmember Favor and Council President Harden. This ordinance is to convey one parcel, one house to Healthy Linden Homes, which is a subsidiary of Healthy Homes. Healthy Homes, of course, is a initiative of both Nationwide Children's Hospital and Community Development for All People and other partners. But we wanted to take this time to also talk about what all is going into the land bank program right now and kind of give an overview of the things that we have achieved over the last year. So we'll start this very brief PowerPoint presentation. The biggest thing that we've worked on is the Central Ohio Community Land Trust. If you recall, I was before council about 2 years ago in February 2019 to get council to approve legislation 0227-2019. That was a legislation that allowed the Director of Development to enter into funding agreements to establish a new community land trust and to fund its first projects. We established a community land trust called the Central Ohio Community Land Trust, and that we placed that new nonprofit under the Central Ohio Community Improvement Corporation, also known as COSIC, which is the Franklin County Land Bank. I think most people know that both the city and the county land bank work together very closely on a lot of different projects and are actually co-located in the same office. So since they have a county-wide emphasis, we felt that is the most appropriate place to put this new land trust. We started building houses in the third quarter of 2019. So what is a community land trust? I went through this 2 years ago, but I thought I would briefly go over this again. A community land trust is a new form of home ownership where a nonprofit trust is established to own the underlying land that a house is built upon, and then we sell that house to an income qualified buyer. We say it's very similar to a condominium. In a condominium, oftentimes the land, or a portion of the land at least, is owned in common ownership by a board of trustees, by a condominium association, I should say. Instead of having typical condominium rules like what you can paint your house and you know how you maintain your property outside of your house, the land trust establishes rules that require the property to remain affordable when it's subsequently sold. That ensures the land is not only affordable to the first buyer, but future owners too. It cannot be resold at a much higher price when property values go through the roof, like we're seeing in a lot of Columbus neighborhoods. It is a shared equity model. When the house is sold, the buyer gets all make, but a portion of the increase of appraisal value remains in the house. The community land trust retains that and passes it on to the next buyer. So starting in late 2019 and through 2020, we completed and sold 38 single-family houses. That includes 10 houses, or really 20 houses, or I'm sorry, 10 houses in Old Town East by NCRC, which is a national nonprofit organization, 10 houses on the south side also by NCRC, 19 houses on the south side by Healthy Homes, 5 in Franklinton by Fuel, and 4 in the Near East Pact area in partnership with Homeport, and they are building 6 remaining houses yet this spring. So next slide. So these are pictures of the houses. We've exclusively built single-family houses so far. All of them are 3-bedroom, 2.5 bath, designed to fit into the neighborhood. We work very closely with area commissions to come up with an appropriate design that fits into the neighborhood. So one of the biggest important aspects of creating this new form of ownership is establishing a system to create a pool of home buyers. This is a little different than typical single-family houses where you just list them for sale with a realtor and take the highest bid. Very important to this initiative was the outreach to the neighborhoods where the houses are built. That includes holding seminars within the neighborhoods, advertising in local media, and doing a lot of outreach to different organizations and groups. We also require and work very closely with our home buyer education providers to require each buyer to go through a trust-specific education program. And then once the buyer has been through that education program and is qualified for a mortgage, then they can choose the house in the neighborhood that they wish to live in. So who are the buyers of these houses, of these 38 houses? 75% of the houses have been sold to minority households. The average income is $51,000 with incomes as low as $33,000. 60% of the households are under 80% AMI, including 18% of the buyers under 60% AMI. AMI stands for area median income. 60% of the households are headed by a single female. What structure is give enough of a price reduction to fit the amount that the buyer can afford. With the understanding is when they go to sell the house, then they pass on that amount to the next buyer. So next slide. So this is a picture of some of the buyers that we've sold to. In this tough real estate environment. So what are we doing now? So last year we established 2 housing development agreements with the Land Trust to start projects pending our capital budgets. They just broke ground on the first of 10 units in Franklinton in partnership with Thrive, also known as Wagonburner, both on the Mount Carmel site and just next to the Mount Carmel site. We also are working on 5 units in Milo Grogan and 7 to 10 units in the Wyland Park area. We're looking at other neighborhoods as we get additional capital funds. And the trust is also building 20 houses outside of the city. One of the most important aspects of this initiative is that's not only a city, a way of providing affordable housing within the city, but also through Franklin County. So that is the main thing that we've worked on this year, and I open it up to any questions anybody has.
Thank you, Mr. Turner, for that presentation. I, for one, was incredibly excited to hear the amazing results thus far about the Community Land Trust. There was a lot of conversation around it in 2019, and to really see the program taking off, the properties not really being on the market for any time at all before they're sold to qualified buyers. I'm also excited and encouraged by the diversity of the now homeowners that the trust is really providing opportunities to folks who, as you stated, may have been closed out of this very competitive market that we're seeing right now in Columbus. But let me allow my colleagues to ask any questions or provide any comments that they might have to Mr. Turner or Director Stevens at this time.
Councilman Favor.
Yes.
Councilor Favor, thank you for this, for the presentation. Thank you, John, and thank you, Director Stevens. I'm really excited to see this for a number of reasons. The first is that that they mentioned that the majority of the homeowners are minority and that they are female. And so when you think about, and I have to think about this from the Commission on Black Girls Report, because most of our families, girls and our girls live with their moms, and most of our moms are renting. And so when there's opportunities, I mean, the majority of our kids are living in rental housing. And so when you can have an opportunity to be able to become a homeowner, of course, you know that you're getting to build, even though you don't take all the appreciation, but you certainly are able to take that wealth and, well, first of all, own a home. That's number one. Should you then decide that you want to buy an additional home, you're able to build wealth to take some of that with you as you're moving forward. And so I'm very excited about the program because, as you and I have had many conversations, and I certainly have had them with Director Stevens, is that we've got to make sure that we're building wealth in our community for all people. And the other is that I was excited that in the number, we want to keep increasing the number, but 18% were individuals that were under 60% AMI, because what we know in our city that, and this is from really working with our own racial equity team and looking at policy around race and equity, that the majority of people of color are around 54% AMI. So we really need to make sure that we are building product for individuals that may not even be at 60% AMI. So thank you for this presentation. It was very much worthwhile, and continues to give us initiative to continue to thrive for to help build wealth in our community and let everyone have a wonderful home to live in. 3 bedrooms, 2.5 baths. Nice. Appreciate the work. Director Stevens and John. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Tyson, and thank you for acknowledging the fact that our country is still reeling from the effects of the pandemic. And this has been noted, and it's not to take away from anyone who has felt the effects and have lost jobs and opportunities, but it's been noted as being the she recession. And the fact of the matter is that women, and more specifically women of color, have really been hit hardest by the pandemic. And so when we think about economic opportunities to build wealth through home ownership, I am very excited for the possibilities of what the Land Trust can do for residents in Columbus. Director Stevens, if you don't mind, I know that we've got a lot of tools in the toolbox that we're currently implementing in order to really combat our affordable housing crisis. Are there any other measures you'd like to highlight at this point?
Thank you, President Hardin, Chair Favor, members of council. First of all, Chair Favor, thank you for giving us the opportunity to share some of the results that we're having in our land bank, and the work that John and his team are doing is really tremendous. We are in the final stages of finding our Assistant Director for Housing Strategy, who will help us develop and further implement our housing strategy. But we're also starting the work to reevaluate the housing abatement program that we have in place for the 3-year periods coming up. Council earlier this month passed a contract with VSI. So we're excited about reevaluating that tool and making that better for all our families in the city. I'd be happy to answer any other questions.
And last but certainly not least, I would be remiss if I didn't take this opportunity to once again highlight the newest program that has come to the land bank, the owner-occupied program. Mr. Turner, if you could talk about that very quickly for residents who are interested in purchasing land bank property and living in their community.
Sure. So as you know, we started a new owner-occupant program that started, I think, last fall. So far, we have, and what the program is that we, for each of our structures, we have an initial listing period where we only accept applications from people who commit to doing the renovation, because all these houses need substantial work, and then B, live in the house for a period of 5 years. And if they can commit to those two things, then they can get 50% off the house. Unfortunately, we don't have the inventory that we did a few years ago, where we had hundreds of houses. So since the start of this program, we've only sold a total of 7 houses, and 2 of those were to owner occupants. We also have 2 pending sale right now. What we find is that it's a little different than our typical sale process. We find that these buyers need a little bit more time to get their plans together, a little bit more time to close on any financing that's available to them after we've selected them. So we've kind of tweaked our program since learning these things. We've extended the initial time period, and we're also moving in different areas. We're also offering side yards that are for sale to owner occupants at a price that's 50% off. We just increased the value or the price of a lot of our holdings at the end of last year. And to compensate for that, we are allowing adjacent property owners, homeowners, to get 50% off a side yard. And in addition to that, participate in the Improve to Own program, which allows them to count some sweat equity into the purchasing that property. We're also just about to move into new construction, where we list lots that are in fairly good areas, such as the Near East and the South Side, to owner occupants who wish to build their own house. They can work with a builder, build a house, and then can also commit to living there for a period of 5 years, a minimum, also at 50% off. So I'll send it back to you.
Thank you, Mr. Turner. Truly appreciate that. Yes, Councilmember Tyson.
Councilmember Favor, I have to ask Mr. Turner, he made one comment, in good areas. And so
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
I want to make sure that all neighborhoods are good areas. But I just want a clarification on that.
So in areas where there's appraisal values to build new houses.
Okay.
That's what I meant. I apologize for that.
Thank you. No problem. I'm just trying to get some clarification around what that meant. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any additional questions or comments for Mr. Turner or Director Stevens? With that, I would move for passage.
Second.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy Tyson, President.
Passed.
Thank you. That's all I have in my committees.
Thank you, Madam Chair. How about we go ahead and take a break? May I have a motion to recess?
So moved. Second.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy Tyson, President Harden.
Council is in recess. We will reconvene in 5 minutes. Councilmember Tyson, cool, 5 minutes. All right. now come to order. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy Tyson, President Harden.
Thank you. Can I get a motion to dispense with the reading of the journal?
So moved.
Second.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy Tyson, President Harden.
We will now go to the zoning committee. Councilmember Tyson chairs that committee and all members serve on it. Councilmember, the floor is yours.
Thank you, President Harden. Before beginning the zoning agenda, I'll briefly explain the rules of council as pertaining to speaking before council on zonings and variances. We permit 3 speakers on each side, 3 proponents, 3 opponents, and we ask them that they limit their remarks to 3 minutes on each side. And we provide an opportunity for rebuttal from the applicant. On the advice of the city attorney's office, anyone who wishes to speak for or against any council variance, including staff, must be sworn in prior to giving testimony. We do so prior to beginning the reading of each variance on the agenda. The first ordinance that we have is 448-2021 to rezone 5076 South High Street, being 496.07 acres located at the southeast corner of South High Street and Rathmill Road, from CPD, Commercial Plan Development, C2 Commercial, ARLD, and AR12 Apartment Residential, R2F Residential, and SR Suburban Residential Districts to LM2 Limited Manufacturing District. The applicant is PFK Company 2 LLC, care of Jeffrey Brown. The proposed use is a limited industrial development. The city department's recommendation is approval. The Far South Columbus Area Commission's recommendation is disapproval for 472. I'm first going to ask for a staff presentation.
The site is partially developed with a dwelling and agricultural buildings. It's primarily used for farming and is zoned in the CPD, Commercial Plan Development, C2 Commercial, ARLD, and AR12 Apartment Residential, R2F Residential, and SR Suburban Residential Districts. The requested LM2 Limited Manufacturing District will allow the site to be developed with a data center and server facility with ancillary warehouse, storage, and office uses. The limitation text proposes computer data center and server uses with ancillary warehouse, storage, and office uses. It includes provisions for setbacks, building height limitations, access, buffering, and landscaping, tree preservation and open space, and lighting controls. A site plan depicting setbacks, access points, development areas, and open space and tree preservation area is included as a text commitment. The site is located within the boundaries of the South Central Accord, which recommends low density residential, high density residential, and commercial land uses at this location, and includes adoption of Columbus citywide planning policies design guidelines. Although the proposed industrial use is inconsistent with the plan's recommendation for residential and commercial uses, the Planning Division staff recognizes that the plan's recommendation is based on the existing zoning. In addition, C2P2 recommendations state that the protection and expansion of employment-related uses is a priority throughout the city. Furthermore, staff finds the data center and server use to have a lesser impact on the neighborhood compared to other industrial or commercial uses, and supports the site design as it provides significant buffering from adjacent residential uses to the north and preserves considerable open space, which is also consistent with C2P2 recommendations. Staff also has reviewed the conceptual building elevations and finds them consistent with C2P2 design guidelines. Therefore, City Department's recommendation is for approval, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Kelsey. Are there any questions for Kelsey from my colleagues? Thank you, Kelsey. Seeing none, I will now ask for a presentation from the applicant. So Attorney Jeffrey Brown, I don't know if Todd Cunningham's going to present with you, but Attorney Brown.
Thank you, Ms. Tyson. My name is Jeffrey L. Brown. I'm attorney for the applicant, and with me tonight is Todd Cunningham, who is our engineer for the development with EMH&T. Kelsey, if you could just show the site plan, I think it's probably, we'll simplify this for council here. President Harden, members of council, as staff has indicated, this property has an existing zoning on it, although historically it's been used as a farm. It has a zoning currently of a mixture of single family, multifamily, twin singles, office, and commercial. What we're proposing here is a data center campus. It's a very specific use. The proposed property is being zoned to LM2. We have a limitation text. We have a site plan. The limitation text limits the use of the property to the data centers and related activities. The limitation text and the site plan show the various setbacks, tree preservation areas, and two significant features that exist on the property now that are being preserved. One is the large pond at the north end of the site, and the second is Spangler Hill along 23. If you're looking at the site plan now, you'll see the green area along at the south end or the bottom of this slide. That's Spangler Hill that we're preserving. The other rectangle that you see is the pond. Now, as we all know, the pond isn't rectangular, but what we've done is increase the buffering around the pond to create that shape. And the important thing that you see in that drawing is the distance from the back of that subdivision to the end of the pond preservation area. That is over 1,200 feet away. The lighter green that you see wrapping around the subdivision as well as wrapping along Rathmel Road is our setback. Around the subdivision, it's 225 feet. Along Rathmel Road, it's 150 feet. And within those open areas, we provide one, tree preservation, and two, where we have openings, we have a proposal and a landscape exhibit that shows the mounding and trees that we'd be adding in the open areas. So when you look at this particular use, one, from a traffic generation versus the existing zoning, it's 80% less traffic, which is very important. When ODOT and the City of Columbus reviewed this development, we originally had proposed an access point along 23. ODOT has different plans for the future of 23. It's going to be a limited access roadway. And so they told us that we would have to take our access off of Rathmel Road. ODOT is in the process of moving forward with a safety traffic improvement at that intersection. And what we are doing is adding on to that improvement to provide the necessary improvements for our access points. This was reviewed 2 times by the Zoning Committee of the Area Commission. We actually did an on-site walkabout. We took live questions on Facebook about the development and showed the setbacks. And we had the vote at the Area Commission where it was a split. We then went to the Development Commission, which recommended approval of this request. So we present in front of you a use that is very necessary in today's world. I mean, if you think of how we spent the last year and how we're doing this hearing tonight virtually, data centers have become even more important than they were a year ago. So what we propose is a campus of data centers. Over a third of the site is going to be left open, and the traffic that we're generating is very small compared to the existing zoning that's on the property. We believe this is an appropriate use of the property. We've tried to work with our neighbors. We've made adjustments with that. We do have the support of the local school district, which has 4 schools on the other side of Parsons Avenue. They made an appearance at the Development Commission and have sent letters of support. They were at the Area Commission and then sent letters of support for council and the Development Commission. So we think this is an appropriate use, and I would be happy to answer any questions that council may have.
Thank you, Attorney Brown. And again, I just want to reiterate one other point here. I think you've said it, but I want you just to repeat it. It's really around the residential area. Even though we know you're not building there, there will not be a building right away that will be next to the residential area. But again, you stated it will certainly be at least 225 feet based upon the height of the building from the residential area, correct?
Yes, ma'am. The buffer around the subdivision is 225 feet. We said in the limitation text that our first building, the first data center that we will do will be south of the pond. So the first building that would appear on that property will be over 1,200 feet away from the subdivision property line.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Mr. Brown? We do have one speaker. Seeing none, we have a speaker, Amy Rico.
Hi, I'm here.
Good evening, Ms. Rico. And could you please state your name, who you represent? You have 3 minutes, and she is speaking against this development.
Hi, thank you for allowing me to speak. I'm Amy Rico, and then I live in the Sweetwater subdivision, so I am opposing the rezoning. I currently live here with my husband. We actually just moved in a month ago, and we originally found out about the rezoning due to the numerous signs in the front yards of the neighborhood that we live in. So there's actually a bunch of signs if you drive around our neighborhood opposing it, saying, you know, people over profit and keep the land as it is and different things like that. So when I had saw that, I was like, what is going on in our neighborhood? We were checking in to see, you know, what is going on. We came in just to see how the build was going. And then I heard and I saw the Facebook page, which has over 400 people about this rezoning. And everybody in the neighborhood is like really close. We're honestly a really close community, and we are all not happy with this. We've all decided, you know, we understand that this will be developed and we're okay with it being, you know, a metro park maybe in the beginning, or like housing developments, how it's currently zoned for. But to have data centers be right there is just a complete eyesore. It really feels like it's going to bring the property down. I've talked to multiple people who are considering, you know, selling their properties and getting out of here. And I can wholeheartedly tell you that my husband and I had met with 3 different home builders. We looked at existing houses for about 2 months, and then we made the decision to move to this subdivision and build here based on the ruralness of it and the rolling hills and the picturesque pond and everything around it. And we would have never decided to build here if we knew that when I turn and look to the right of me outside my backyard when I'm sitting on my patio, I would see a massive data center. I'm not directly towards it, but if you look at my backyard and you look to the right, that's where the data center will be. So I will see it every single day. I'm really active, so I go for runs around the neighborhood and I take my dog, and I can see the little sticks that Attorney Jeff Brown put out there with the little tape on top of it, so you can see how far back the first building is, and it's smack dab. Like, it is right there, and I just feel like it really ruins the land and the history behind it. So if there was any way where this could be, you know, parts Metro Park in the beginning, or if they could just build on the back half of it, if they have to rezone and they have to sell it to this Fortune 100 company with the data centers and everything like that, that's what everyone around the neighborhood has been talking about on this Facebook group and is for. But we just don't want to see the history of this land get ruined and a massive data center be built, especially when nothing has been developed on this half of it. If you go further down, there's, you know, the water treatment plant, there's Scioto Downs, there's all those different things. But this section that we're in truly is the beautiful rolling hills. And if they decide to build a data center, we've even said, you know, could they do something for us, like make a walking trail around the pond, so we're at least getting something out of it instead of just seeing concrete buildings with a little bit of trees in the beginning. And they've said no due to the safety of the data center. And it's like, I'm glad you're safe for the data center, but what about our safety with, you know, if somebody wants to break in and have all these computers, like that is our backyard that they will be, you know, trekking through. So that's kind of my stance on it. I am completely against the rezoning. I would love to see it be a metro park if they are going to do, where it's split to a metro park and the back half has the data centers, or leave it as it is and build more homes so that way the value of our property increases rather than decreases.
Thank you, Ms. Rico, for coming in, sharing your testimony. And I'm going to ask, based upon your testimony, are there any questions for my colleagues to Ms. Rico?
Councilmember Tyson, I do have a question for her, if she's still on the call. You stated during your testimony, and thank you for taking time out of your day to attend the zoning meeting with us this evening. But just wondering, you said that you weren't opposed to development, and obviously, city council as not being owners of the property, we can't dictate what the owners want to do with the property. They have autonomy to decide whether or not they want to sell the property to whoever the company may be. And so I guess my question would be, because we often hear from residents when there are large developments that are planning, that there are concerns about what that will do to their property, or concerns about increased traffic. And so I guess just trying to reconcile, is it truly all you're opposed to the data center, or is it just any development that's not a park?
I'm opposed to the data center. I would be perfectly fine with there being some type of single housing or anything like that, but it's the data center that I'm opposed to.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm Mr. Attorney Brown. You've heard her thoughts and comments. I'd like for you to respond to them.
Sure. Thank you, Ms. Tyson. I think the important thing to understand that although that property historically has been farmed, it has a developable zoning on that property. And the property owners would like to move ahead, and they have been approached by numerous users in the past. Recently, there was one for a warehouse distribution center. And when we engaged the school district, they were very concerned about that particular use just because of the number of trucks and the activity that you have with the schools along Parsons. And so the owners tried to find the best use for the area, for the city, and for the region. And we feel very strongly that in terms of doing a campus-like setting with a series of data centers is an appropriate way to develop this piece of property. And when you look at that map, we have one really neighbor to deal with, and that's the subdivision there. And we think in terms of the setbacks that we've talked about, 225 feet around that subdivision, the fact that the first data building is 1,200 feet away from that subdivision, it is a secure campus. As you might imagine, in terms of these machines and their importance and everything. So there will be a farm-like fence along the perimeter of the property, kind of to find out where the property line is, and then we will have more security fencing closer to the buildings. But we think that this is a very good use. It's a low traffic generator, and it's something that will allow the city to attract other businesses by pointing out the capacity that they now have with these data centers and how that helps other businesses in terms of doing what they need to do in today's economy, and how we're all functioning now virtually.
Can you also speak to the security around at the data center? Because as you heard Ms. Rico state that they were concerned someone's going to try to come in and steal the computers, et cetera. So could you really address the type of security that would be at this facility?
Sure, we'll have 24-hour security because the place will operate 24 hours. So we'll have cameras and the typical things that you would have. And just so that she understands, along the south property line where there are no trees, we are proposing a 10-foot mound plus trees and evergreens on top of that. So in the areas where the existing trees aren't there, that's what we're going to put in place to provide the appropriate buffer.
All right. Thank you, Attorney Brown. And so I've driven out there, and I definitely know where the subdivision is. I recognize where the plans are within this legislation. And so I know that so I've seen that. I know that it is from the owner's perspective that this owner feels that this is the best use for their land. And also we did some research on data centers that have been built within our community, and the prices of the property has not gone down. As a matter of fact, even because of the economy, those prices have gone up. So it has not been bringing the appraisal price of the homes down. I also just want to I have to mention this before we get ready to move forward with this legislation. I want to say a special thank you to the Far South Area Commission, and especially Chairwoman Richardson, and again the entire commission. They have certainly met with the developer Jeff Brown, but they've also met with council's team. They have met with I have met with them 2 times, as well as I want to thank Director Stevens, Director Carter William Scott, President Harden, and Councilman Baremi for meeting with the Far South Area Commission. And as well, I know that my other colleagues have certainly reviewed all this information that that the residents have certainly shared with our council, with our council. And again, I just appreciate what the concerns that the Far South Area Commission has for their community, and that how they want to see their community to move forward. And there is a commitment from this council, as well as the administration, to be able to work with the Far South Area Commission. And I also want to be remiss, but also there is a commitment from the data center, the data center organization, to also work with not only our community, but also with this area commission. So again, thank you very much for the Far South Area Commission. And I think that it's evident by this evening, we heard what the vote was, and based upon all the outreach, that they are not in council chambers. They are not speaking tonight. But again, I want to recognize just their overall commitment to see change in their community as we move forward. If there are any other comments or questions from my colleagues, if not, I'll move forward. Well, seeing none, I first move to waive second reading.
Second.
Thank you. And now I move to amend as submitted to the clerk.
Clerk, please call the roll for second reading.
I'm sorry.
Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy Tyson, President Harden.
Removed.
Thank you. I move to amend as submitted to the clerk.
Second.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy Tyson, President Harden.
Amended.
Thank you. And finally, I move for passage.
Second.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy Tyson, President Harden.
Pass.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Here this evening? You're welcome, Attorney Brown, and thank you. Anyone here this evening who wishes to speak either for or against this council variance, including staff, please stand, raise your right hand, and be sworn in. I wish to tell the truth and nothing but the truth. Please answer, I will.
I will.
Thank you. It is Ordinance 458-2021 to grant a variance from the provisions of sections 3333.04, permitted uses in the ARO Apartment Office District, 3356.03 C4, permitted uses, 3309.14 Height District, 3312.29 Parking Space, 3321.09B Landscaping, 3333.15C Basis of Computing Area, 3333.18 Building Lines, 3333.24 Rear Yard of the Columbus City Codes for property located at 23 West 2nd Avenue, to permit a mixed-use development with reduced development standards in the ARO Apartment Office District and the C4 Commercial District. The applicant is 23 West 2nd Holdings LLC, care of attorney Michael Shannon. The proposed use is a mixed-use development. The City Department's recommendation is approval, and the Victorian Village Commission's recommendation is approval, 4, 1, and 0. I would like to now ask Kelsey to give us a staff presentation.
The site consists of 6 parcels developed with the former International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers office and parking lot zoned in the ARO, apartment office, and C4 commercial district. The requested council variance would permit the development of a mixed-use building with 10,000 square feet of commercial space, 158 dwelling units, and 171 parking spaces. The council variance is necessary to allow parking within the ARO apartment residential district, to serve commercial uses within the C4 commercial district, and to allow ground floor residential uses in the C4 commercial district. The request includes additional variances to increase building height and lot coverage, and to reduce the parking space size, landscaping, building setback line, and rear yard. The site is located within the vicinity of several sites that receive council variances to allow similar multi-story mixed-use projects along the High Street corridor. There's no council adopted plan for this area, but the proposal will permit a multi-story mixed-use development that is consistent with the development pattern and historic character of the surrounding neighborhood while preserving the existing historic building. City Department's recommendation is for approval, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Kelsey. Does anyone have any questions for Kelsey? Nope. Seeing none, we will now have a presentation from the applicant, Attorney Mike Shannon.
Good evening, Council President Harden, Chairperson Tyson. Nice to be here this evening. Kelsey, could you show, or whoever's in control, show the zoning map, please, that shows the AR district and the C4 district? There we go. Thank you very much. As you can see, the vast majority of our site is zoned ARO, apartment residential office, and the area in red is C4. Most of our variances are due to these split zoning categories on the site. To go through them very briefly, the ARO district obviously allows the apartment use, but to the extent we want to park vehicles in the parking garage on that site that are in the C4 use, that requires a variance. Similarly, the ARO lot area requirements, it's not unusual to see a variance to increase the lot coverage, in this case from 50% to 90%. The building lines and rear yards are, again, run-of-the-mill variances that go with the ARO district, as is the landscaping requirement. The use variance comes in here because we want to have residential uses on the ground floor of some of the property that is shown in red, the C4 property. You're allowed the multifamily uses on floors 2 and above, but to have residential uses on the ground floor permits that use variance. And also the most significant variance that we've gone after here is for 89 feet. There's also a nominal variance with regard to the size of the parking spaces. Believe it or not, this project has been in the works since March of 2016. And in that time period, there have been several iterations. From March until April of 2017, we actually had 12 hearings, got approval from the Victorian Village Commission for a project that was going to be 115 feet tall with 85 high-end condos and 45,000 square feet of offices and over 10,000 square feet of retail. Although we had approval from the commission and staff, the level of opposition was such, we had probably 150 people in opposition at that time, that we decided to go back to the drawing board. And we refiled our application in October of 2017. And we labored through 20 hearings from October 2017 through August of 2018. And during that period, the commission was hopelessly deadlocked 3-3, and we were at 120 feet on that iteration. So 2019, we took a year off. We reevaluated the proposal, changed some of the architects that were involved in the design team, and we came back in February of 2020 with the project that is currently before you. Most notably, the height of that project has gone from 120 feet to 89 feet. We've eliminated 45,000 square feet of office space, and we were down from 11,000 retail square footage to just 4,000. And we have 158 market rate apartments. We filed that in February of 2020. We had 6 hearings before we called the question on the variances, and they were approved, as Chair Tyson said, 4-1. We've actually had 3 additional hearings in our efforts to get a certificate of appropriateness for the building permits for this project. The long and the short of it is that we have worked tirelessly with our neighbors. I'm sure there's still a few that will oppose the project, but this has been a labor of love. My client refers to it as the Mike Shannon Employment Act. I haven't really worked on a zoning for 5 years continuously in a long time, with the 1 year off in 2019. But at the end of the day, we think this project is a tremendous benefit to the community. Again, with the market rate housing, and again, 20% of our housing will be set aside for workforce housing. There's a critical need for both the market rate and the workforce housing, and this project embodies that. And also, please don't get lost in the shuffle that we are maintaining the IBEW building and its historic grandeur. We are doing a very small partial demolition of the rear portion of the building, which we do not believe was of the original construction. So with that, I'd be happy to address any questions or save that for rebuttal. Thank you, Chair Tyson.
Thank you, Attorney Shannon, Mike Shannon. And are there any questions? We have a couple speakers. All right. Seeing none, we have 2 speakers. The first will be Bill Woods, will be followed then by Lisa Woods.
How do I unmute? Oh.
Again, state your name, who you represent. You have 3 minutes to speak.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Okay, my name is Bill Wood. I live at 41 West 2nd Avenue, which is next door to the development. I would just like to say to President Hardin, members of the council, and to Ms. Tyson, thank you very much for having us here. One aside to Mr. Shannon, he says they're doing a very small demolition on the back of the original IBEW building. They are demolishing 47% of the original building. I do not consider that a small amount, but that's neither here nor there. The Board of Zoning Adjustment, which we have been, this development hasn't been before, but the White Castle development was before the Board of Zoning Adjustment. And they said that as long as a development did not go west of Wall Alley, that they could be virtually whatever height they wanted to be. But once they got west of Wall Alley, that they had to integrate into the neighborhood because you're getting into where housing is. Well, this development goes 175 feet west of Wall Alley, and there is no diminution of the height of the building, as the BZA has said was going to happen. The Pizzuti development that is going on at this very present moment, that is across the street on Price Avenue from this development, starts at 65 feet and goes down to 40 feet. And it's amazing that the Pizzutis can make money on a development that short, and they never asked for higher. And Wood did a beautiful development down on Park Avenue that goes from 90 feet down to 55 feet. And this development goes into the neighborhood on the westerly end, and is enormous. And it makes no concession to the fact that they are going in among 38-foot houses, and we're going to have 90-foot neighbor 10 feet away from us. It's just not fair. And the reason why there's so few of us that are here is that these meetings are very difficult to do. We had many, many people at all the Victorian Village Commission meetings against this development, not against the development, but against the fact that they refused to lower the height as it got into the neighborhood. And they have steadfastly refused to lower the height. Pizzuti has, Wood has. We think that Kaufman should also. So we thank you very much for your consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Wood. Are there any questions for Mr. Wood? The next presenter will be Lisa Wood.
Am I there?
Yes, please state your name, who you represent, your name, your address, and who you represent.
Yes. Lisa Wood, 41 West 2nd Avenue. I guess I'm representing me and my neighbors. I've always been, this doesn't go by the Short North guidelines in any way, shape, or form as far as it going back that far into the neighborhood. But my other concern has always been traffic, that they're cutting off Wall Alley, which is currently a thoroughfare between 2nd and Price. And the city just put in new curbs and a new entryway. So they still consider that a thoroughfare. I'm concerned that my alley is going to get cut off. I think somebody has to insist on a traffic study. I've been a 35-year resident. I'll no longer be able to maintain a garden or a flower bed. I think that's unfair. But the one thing I want to bring to your attention is that there's a notice taped to 23 West 2nd Avenue from the city for code violations. So I feel that if the property has violations, they shouldn't get variances. That's all I got.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Ms. Wood? All right. Attorney Shannon, can you address some of the concerns that our speaker shared with us this evening?
Certainly. For the records, the Woods have been very good neighbors throughout this process. They've been consistent with their opposition, but they've always maintained a high degree of civility, and they're obviously very sincere. I don't take umbrage to anything they've said. They have a right to try to, protect their quiet enjoyment of their property. We've made so many changes in this project over the period of time, some of which directly were at the request of the Woods. The pool west side of the building adjacent to the Wood property. They were concerned that the activity deck and the pool being next to their property, although it would be a much shorter height, would be a nuisance. And we did take that to heart and moved it internally. Also, it's a misconception to say that we're demolishing 43% of the building. The part we are demolishing is only 1 story. It's a rear garage. We do not believe it's part of the original construction. The rest of the entire building is 2 stories. So Bill's percentage there is skewed by at least 50%. So having said that, the fact of the matter is that with this zoning, we are addressing, and council members, you know this better than me, and I'm not being preachy, but we do have a critical problem with market rate housing in Columbus. You know how far behind we are, and it's especially important when that market rate housing also accommodates workforce housing. The Kaufman projects that I've been involved in have all been legacy projects, and they speak for themselves, from Gravity to the Commons to other projects I've worked on with them. And we've done our best to address a variety of stakeholders. You can't make everybody happy, but we put our best foot forward. We lowered from 120 to 89 and eliminated 45,000 square feet of office, 6,000 square feet of retail. And for those reasons, and one last point for what it's worth, you don't have to show it again, but you saw how much of the property was in the yellow, the ARO district, and what a small portion was in the C4. It's only the C4 property that needs the height variance. That entire yellow portion, the ARO district, has a height district of 200 feet. 200 feet. So the variance doesn't apply to that entire area, only to the C4 area, which is that area furthest away from the Woods property. Thank you, and I'd be happy to address any questions.
Thank you, Attorney Shannon. So the 20% workforce, what's the AMI for that? Can you?
It's in the 80% to 100% category.
Well, the market rate would be 100%. So you're saying the other is 80%.
Again, I don't negotiate those deals on behalf of the client, but it's my understanding it's in the 20% of it is workforce housing. I apologize.
Okay.
Chair Tyson.
Yes.
Mr. Shannon, can you tell us what the intentions are for the IBEW original building that you're preserving?
Yeah, it's going to take over $1 million to rehab that building. The IBEW was a terrific tenant, but they hot wired more electricity into that building than you have in some generators. All mechanicals are shot. There's a significant amount.
I hate to interrupt you, but he wants to know how is that building going to be used? Can you hear me?
To be used as an office building, and we believe we'll have ground floor retail.
Thank you.
Did you hear me? I apologize.
Now we can.
We intend to use it after over $1 million of renovations. We intend to lease it for offices and have some ground floor retail.
Okay. Are there any other questions for Attorney Shannon? Okay. Well, seeing that again, this got an approval of from, as you heard, this has been going on since around 2016, and the Victorian Village Commission did approve it at 4-1-0. We will. So first, I move to waive second reading.
Second.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy Tyson, President Harden.
Waived.
Thank you. And now I'll move for passage.
Second.
Please call the roll.
Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy Tyson, President Harden.
Pass.
Thank you. The next ordinance is 611.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's ordinance 611 -2021, and it is, I'm sorry, move this down a little bit, to rezone 840 Michigan Avenue, being 0.62 acres located at the northeast corner of Michigan Avenue and Buttles Avenue, from the M Manufacturing District to the AR3 apartment residential district. The applicant for this is JDS Companies, care of Attorney Mike Shannon, and the proposed use is a multi-unit residential development. The City Department's recommendation is approval. Harrison West Side's recommendation is also approval. But we are going to, I'm going to move to waive second reading.
Second.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy Tyson, President Harden.
Waived.
Thank you. I'm going to move the table for 1 week.
Second.
Please call the roll.
Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy Tyson, President Harden.
Okay.
Thank you. Again, anyone here this evening who wishes to speak either for or against this council variance, including staff, please stand, raise your right hand, and be sworn in. I wish to tell the truth and nothing but the truth. Please answer, I will. And then this is variance ordinance 612-2021 to grant a setback in provisions of sections 3312.27, parking setback 3312.49, minimum number of parking spaces required, and 3333.18B, building lines of the Columbus City Codes for property located at 840 Michigan Avenue to permit a reduced development standards for an apartment building in the AR3 apartment residential district. This is the component variance to the legislation that we just tabled, and so what I'm going to do is I'm going to move. I'm going to go up. I will move to waive second reading.
Second.
And thank you.
Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy Tyson, President Harden.
Thank you. I want to move the table for 1 week.
Second.
Please call the roll.
Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy Tyson, President Harden.
Table.
Thank you. Anyone here this evening who wishes to speak either for or against this council variance, including staff, please stand, raise your right hand, and be sworn in. I wish to tell the truth and nothing but the truth. Please answer, I will.
I will. I will.
Thank you. I have ordinance 618-2021 to grant a variance from the provisions of sections 3332.039 R4 residential district, 3356.03 C4 permitted uses, 3309.14 height districts, 3312.27 parking setback line, 3312.49 C minimum numbers of parking spaces required, and 3332.21 building lines of the Columbus City Codes for the property located at 120 South Central Avenue to permit a 102 unit apartment complex with reduced development standards in the R4 residential and C4 commercial districts. The applicant is the Woda Cooper Companies, Inc., care of Dave Perry. The proposed use is a multi-unit residential development. The City Department's recommendation is approval, and the Franklinton Area Commission's recommendation is 17-0. Again, this is a variance, and should we approve this, because this would be looking to get low income tax credits for this, we would come back for the zoning. There, we did receive a call from Bob Hughes, who was stated to our office that he was not in support of this variance, and my office has reached out to him, or talked to him once, and will be really following up to let him again know that should we approve this tonight, it will still come back for a zoning if they're able to get the tax credits. So if there are no questions or comments from my colleague, I move to waive second reading.
Second.
Please call the roll.
Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy Tyson, President Harden.
Thank you. Thank you. I now move for passage.
Second.
Please call the roll.
Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy Tyson, President Harden.
Pass.
Thank you. Anyone here this evening who wishes to speak either for or against this council variance, including staff, please stand, raise your right hand, and be sworn in. I wish to tell the truth and nothing but the truth. Please answer, I will.
I will. I will.
Thank you. Ordinance 620-2021 to grant a variance for the provisions of sections 3333.02, AR12, ARLD, and AR1 apartment residential district use, 3349.03 permitted uses, and 3312.49 minimum numbers of parking spaces required of the Columbus City Codes for the property located at 2225 North Cassidy Avenue to permit the expansion of a shared living facility with on-site counseling, a crisis intervention, and general office areas with the reduction in the required number of parking spaces in the ARLD apartment residential district and institutional district, and to repeal the ordinance 1918-2020 2016, passed July the 21st of 2016. And the applicant is the Lutheran Social Services of Central Ohio. And the attorney is Christian Gillikin. I'm sorry. The proposed use is a shared living facility expansion. The city department's recommendation is approval, and the Northeast Area Commission's recommendation is approval. It is, and it was unanimous. And again, this is just to add on additionally to this property. If there are no questions or comments, I move to amend to emergency.
Second.
Please call the roll.
Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy Tyson, President Harden.
Amended.
Thank you. And now I move for passage.
Second.
Please call the roll.
Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy Tyson, President Harden.
Pass.
Thank you. The final ordinance in the zoning committee this evening is 621-2021. But before I read it, it is a variance. So anyone here this evening who wishes to speak either for or against this council variance, including staff, please stand, raise your right hand, and be sworn in. I wish to tell the truth and nothing but the truth. Please answer, I will.
I will.
Thank you very much. It is to grant a variance from the provisions of section 3363.01 in manufacturing district, 3332.26E minimum side yard permitted, and 3391.07B expansion of non-conforming uses of the Columbus City codes for property located at 75 West Casa Street to conform an existing single unit dwelling with and to permit a reduced minimum side yard for the detached garage in the M manufacturing district. The applicant is Abigail and Sean Cohen. It is the proposed use is a single unit dwelling. The city department's recommendation is approval, and the Brewery District Commission's recommendation is also approval. And if there are no questions or comments from my colleagues, I move to waive second reading.
Second.
Please call the roll.
Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy Tyson, President Harden.
Waived.
Thank you, and now move for passage.
Second.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy Tyson, President Harden.
Passed.
Thank you, and that concludes the zoning agenda this evening.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Seeing no further business coming for the zoning committee, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Please call the roll.
Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy Tyson, President Harden.
Meeting is adjourned. Why don't we take another 3 minutes? I think we probably still have a bit to go in our regular meeting. So let's take 3 minutes and reconvene it. Well, let's reconvene at 7:35.
So moved.
Second.
Clerk, please call the row.
Brown, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, Tyson, President Harden.
Meeting is reconvened. I think the next committee to come before council is the Development Committee. That committee is chaired by Councilmember Remy. Councilmember, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Council President Harden. Tonight I have 4 items in the Economic Development Committee. First is Ordinance 410-2021 to authorize the Director of the Department of Development to enter into a downtown office incentive agreement with Health Plan Data Solutions as provided in Columbus City Council Resolution 88X/2007, adopted on June 4th, 2007. Health Plan Data Solutions, headquartered in Columbus, Ohio, was established in 2010 by pharmacists, business executives, and software development professionals who saw a need for a more objective, fast-paced, fact-based, approach to managing pharmacy benefit costs. They provide clients with a partner who will protect their interests and leverage data to advocate for them, ensuring their pharmacy benefit managers are honoring their contracts. Health Plan Data Solutions intends to lease, equip, and occupy approximately 7,800 square feet of office space at 444 North Front Street, Suite 101, Columbus, Ohio. The project will allow Health Plan Data Solutions to expand their headquarters operation. Health Plan Data Solutions anticipates investing approximately $225,000 to build out and equip the project site. Health Plan Data Solutions will retain 31 employees with an annual payroll of $3,320,000 and expects to create approximately 30 net new full-time positions with an associated annual payroll of approximately $3,100,000. This evening, we are fortunate to have Doug Bruce, the Director of Human Resources with Health Plan Data Solutions, to speak a little more about the project. Doug, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Councilman Remy, President Harden, President Pro Tem Brown, and council members. Frankly, you stole most of my thunder there with the review of the application. But please give a little bit more context to the application remarks. So we really appreciate the consideration. But we moved into what's referred to as a battleship building next to the North Market a week before the COVID shutdown. At that point in time, we had 24 employees. I'm happy and proud to report that we're up to 41, and came out of a meeting last week with a directive to hire between 15 and 20 more throughout the rest of 2021. So we're very optimistic that given the growth opportunities in the pharmacy payment integrity industry, which we in fact created over 10 years ago, we'll have ample opportunities to probably exceed the expectations of this ordinance. So excited about that. So easily get beyond the 30 new jobs. We'll probably get to that mark by mid 2022. So as the summary indicated, we'll use those funds, and they're important to our growth so that we can equip the 7,800 square feet that we occupy right now with fixtures and furniture and technology, and also to help us offset the cost of the additional staff. And those folks are going to be IT professionals. We do have a lot of pharmacists on staff, and could we blend their knowledge with the IT professionals' expertise? We're moving more and more into AI. So those average salaries, which we estimate to be close to $100,000, we're probably going to exceed that by the time all these folks get hired over the next 2 or 3 years. So excited to be downtown. Really haven't had the chance to enjoy it. Literally, I think the day we moved in, they announced that the Arnold had been postponed. So with the advent of the vaccine and better weather, we hope to get back in there together as a group, add to our staff, and continue to grow. We see great opportunities downtown. I don't know how quickly we're going to outgrow the 7,800 square feet, but we may at some point in time, but are still committed to Columbus. Very proud to be downtown. So I want to thank everybody on behalf of our leadership and our staff at Health Plan Data Solutions. So appreciate the opportunity to meet with you here tonight and for your consideration of this ordinance.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bruce. We appreciate that's exciting news at the fast pace of growth, especially during COVID times. Director Stevens, do you have any comments about this particular piece of legislation?
Thank you, President Hardin, Chair Ramey, members of council. The four pieces before you tonight really focus on job creation and significant investment within our community. This piece is really special because we've got a long-term commitment to our downtown. We've got a company that is doubling their workforce and growing. This incentive tool is great because if they exceed their projections, they are rewarded for that. So, and if they don't meet it, then they don't meet the then their incentive is less. So we're pleased to be offering this downtown office incentive, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Do any of my colleagues have any questions this evening? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Second.
Thank you, Chairman. I just wanted to highlight that and thank Mr. Bruce for bringing this to us. As we do come out of COVID in our next phase, bringing folks back downtown and filling those office spaces are so critically important. And so we really appreciate it. The clerk, please call the roll.
Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy Tyson, President Hardin.
Passed. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And next, I have ordinance number 439, 2021, to authorize the Director of the Department of Development to enter into a dual rates job growth incentive agreement with Ophir Health, doing business as Smile MD, for a term of up to 2 consecutive years in consideration of the company's proposed capital investment of $45,000 and creation of 100 net new full-time permanent positions in it, with an estimated payroll of approximately $6,781,000. Founded in 2014 and headquartered in Central Ohio, Ophir Health, also known as Smile MD, is a healthcare company that brings mobile anesthesia services for in-office surgical procedures. Specifically, the company brings an anesthesiologist full care team to primarily pediatric dental offices to provide anesthesia services for their surgical procedures. Having these procedures done in small offices rather than larger facilities saves the providers and patients potentially thousands of dollars in medical bills and removes a bottleneck for services. Service areas presently include Ohio, Illinois, and Kentucky. New service areas will be contiguous states coming online later this year and are the catalyst for new employee growth. Smile MD is proposing a total project cost of approximately $45,000, including $40,000 in machinery and equipment, $5,000 in leasehold improvements to build out their corporate headquarters, and renovate an approximately 9,195 square foot office space at 1103 Schrock Road, Suite 200, to accommodate its increased sales growth and to meet its consumer demands. The company will create 100 new net full-time positions with a payroll of approximately $6,781,000, and retain 23 full-time permanent positions with an annual payroll of $1,886,000 at the project site. This evening, we have Saket Agrawal, the CEO of Ophir Health, here to share some additional details regarding the project. Saket, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Councilman Remy and Columbus City Council. Thank you for having me today. Ophir Health is a fast-growing healthcare startup focused on delivering access to care for underserved populations in their community throughout the country. Through our services, we have delivered care for over 10,000 patients in the past 4 years and saved over 300,000 miles driven and 30,000 months of wait time for access to care. We have grown significantly in the past 4 years and are anticipating our growth to accelerate over the upcoming years. Columbus will now house our headquarters and our logistical hub and will serve as the back office for delivering care throughout the country. We have recently raised our Series A funding that we are utilizing to build out our team and invest in technology and development. We're excited to be moving into our new HQ at 1103 Schrock Road and anticipates to be hiring significantly over the next few years. We've already, in the past month, hired 10 people and have dozens of positions open. And I'm looking forward to exercising on our mission and bringing job creation to Columbus.
Thank you, Mr. Agarwal. We appreciate you coming in tonight to talk a little bit more about this. Director Stevens, do you have any additional comments about this piece of legislation?
Thank you, President Hardin, Chair Remy, members of council. We're excited to welcome Smile MD to Columbus. I will note that this is a dual rate incentive, and as council recalls, that employees that live within the city of Columbus, the incentive is 35% of the income tax revenue from those positions. Outside the city of Columbus residents, it's 25%. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Do any of my colleagues have any questions about this piece of legislation? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Second.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy Tyson, President Harden.
Pass.
Thank you very much. Next, I have ordinance number 520, 2021 to authorize the Director of Development to enter into a community reinvestment area agreement with Magellan Enterprises, LLC for a property tax abatement of 100% for a period of 15 consecutive years on real property improvements in consideration of a proposed investment of at least $300 million in new building construction and operations and the creation of 20 net new full-time permanent positions. Community reinvestment areas have been designated by Columbus City Council under the general guidelines of Ordinance 1698-78. Such areas allow for the granting of real property tax incentives to encourage industrial, commercial, and residential growth. Magellan Enterprises LLC is proposing to develop, construct in one or more phases, and operate in one or more data centers, as well as certain buildings, structures, and infrastructure for accessory, supporting, associated or related use, such as, but not limited to, offices and utility buildings, structures, and appurtenances on 495.9 acres located at 5076 South High Street in Columbus. Magellan Enterprises expects to invest approximately $300 million at the site, including the initial 150,000 square foot building, and has estimated that the project will support the creation of 20 net new full-time positions within the city of Columbus with an associated new annual payroll of approximately $2 million by December 31st, 2027. The Department of Development recommends a community reinvestment area property tax abatement of 100% for a period of 15 consecutive years on real property improvements related to the construction of its data centers operations. This proposal is consistent with the Columbus tax incentive policy for community reinvestment area projects. The Hamilton Local School District and Eastland Fairfield Technical and Career Schools have been advised of the project pursuant to Ohio Revised Code 3735-.671. The Hamilton Local School District has approved the 100% 15-year abatement for Magellan Enterprises. A copy of the Hamilton Local School District resolution approving the abatement is attached and is contingent upon the execution of a community reinvestment area compensation agreement between Magellan Enterprises and the Hamilton Local School District. This evening, we have a few guests to share additional information regarding this project. First, I'd like to call the attorney for the applicant, Scott Zients. Mr. Zients, welcome to council. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair Remy, Council President Hardin, and council members. I am happy to go first and to take the lead on this. At the same time, if it's council's pleasure, I'm happy to have the other speakers go first and then to address anything they don't address third. I know they have certain specific items they want to cover, one being the school district superintendent with his perspective, and then one a contractor. So should I continue or should I cede the floor to them and then come back?
You're welcome to continue. We will loop back to you if we find that there's some unanswered questions.
Okay, great. Thank you. So again, I'm honored, Scott Zients from Voorhees. I'm honored to be here representing Magellan Enterprises. You'll hear from Mr. Stevens, I'm sure, Mr. Stewart, and Mr. Tyler regarding some key points they're going to make. I'll try to stay away from the points that I think they're going to cover, just so I honor your time. There's really two important things I want to emphasize that might not be specific in the materials that you've been provided. First, the economic impact of this project is going to be far more significant than 20 full-time jobs with a $2 million payroll. We're expecting that there will be 300 to 500 highly skilled construction jobs per data center building. Over time, then, if there are 5 to 7 data center buildings like this site can accommodate, that's the equivalent of 1,500 to 3,500 highly skilled construction jobs on this project. Not only is that going to be great for the construction workers and their families, but that will translate into significant income tax revenues for the city. I'm just a lawyer, so I'll keep the math simple. For every 100 million in construction payroll, again, it's pretty easy, $2.5 million of city income taxes just from those construction workers, and that doesn't count whatever the contractors themselves are paying. And again, that's not all. There's going to be supplier vendor jobs associated with this project, and that's proven. The Ohio Development Services Agency did a study. They found multiple reports that cited a predictive jobs and economic impact multiplier of 5x. In other words, 5 times the number of jobs and investment from this project will be spurred because of this project. And that's because this is like the new manufacturing. You heard Mr. Brown talk about data centers earlier. These are major projects that not only help drive our economy, but they help drive a local economy through all the supplier and vendor relationships and all the construction jobs and all the jobs that those create. So the second thing I want to emphasize that is not really maybe clear from your materials is that we've represented the parent company of Magellan on projects throughout the U.S. And I'm very confident, I can assure you, I'm very confident that they're going to be an outstanding corporate citizen. And I'll just note 3 examples. 1, they work proactively and collaboratively with each community in which they do business to improve opportunities for students in the community. Not only STEM, but in other areas, but obviously STEM is a big part of what they do. Second, this company works proactively and collaboratively with each community in which it does business to improve opportunities for underrepresented constituencies. And for example, the company has an established supplier diversity, D&I program. It's not something that they do when they're asked. It's in their DNA. They do it on every project. And finally, this company has one of the most environmentally sustainable plans of any company in the world. You'll be very proud to have this company and its parent in your community and in my community. I'm happy to answer any questions either now or later.
Thank you, Mr. Zions. I appreciate it. Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Zions before we move on? All right. Seeing none, I am now going to turn the floor over to Brian Stewart, the CEO of Superior Group. Mr. Stewart, the floor is yours.
Hi, everyone. Appreciate being here today. I'm Brian Stewart, and I'm the owner of the Superior Group, a Columbus-based electrical contracting and engineering firm. The origins of our business have a heritage dating back to 1925 here in Columbus. I'd like to start by thanking Council for its partnership in a recent downtown office agreement that helped our firm move into its new home in the White Castle development off of Goodale. We've actually doubled our office space in the downtown and have already beaten our 3-year job creation number in the plan. So thank you for that. And jobs is actually what brings me here today. Columbus, Ohio is a business community that has attracted so many great developments to our area and provided such opportunity for our firm and our team members. In particular, the data center industry has allowed the Superior Group and its employees to thrive and grow. We are fortunate to have a number of data center sites in the region and are excited about the prospect of the site here in Columbus. I'd like to share some metrics about our company and the opportunities that these developments create. At any time on these developments, there are hundreds and from time to time in excess of 1,000 construction jobs created. For our firm alone, that can mean a peak of over 300 skilled trades jobs created on a single project. These are jobs available for local residents, and in our case, IBEW union members in a variety of positions, from entry level to the most experienced in the industry. And the data center industry importantly offers us future workforce development and diversity and inclusion opportunities as well. These are truly great jobs. The work is complex, rewarding, and offers our company, team members, and their families the opportunity to grow. Job creation facilitated by the data center industry doesn't stop at the trades. These projects require professional and engineering support, create back office positions as well. And in our case, our expertise gained right here in Columbus, Ohio, has allowed us to grow our organization to perform work across the United States. Much of our work outside of Ohio is in the data center space. Our story is unique and one we're proud of. We've been able to grow from a small local business to one that today employs over 700 team members in Central Ohio, with another 700 team members working on projects within our affiliate companies across the country. And much of that growth is due to the opportunities created by the data center industry. And we're proud to be a part of creating that infrastructure. So again, thanks for the opportunity to talk tonight. Being based in Columbus means the world to the Superior Group, and it's afforded our company and our employees and families opportunities we would never have without the support of the community. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Stewart. We appreciate you being here in Columbus and obviously speaking this evening. Do any of my colleagues have any questions for Mr. Stewart? Mr. Dorns, Councilmember Dorns.
Mr. Stewart, thank you for being here tonight. I wanted to know if you could just share with council and certainly in members of the public, what is the standard wage for a journeyman electrician that's employed by the Superior Group and their fringe benefit package?
Right, so I don't have the exact dollars off the top of my head this evening on that, but looking at what average figures could be in terms of an hourly wage, including overtime outside of benefits, those can be in excess of $50 an hour, including overtime, and there is a benefit package on top of that. Those wage ranges, obviously, there's a prevailing wage statute, so those wage ranges are publicly available.
Thank you. In your past experience on data center projects, the construction phase of the build out, in your experience, how long is that typically expected? Is it 12 months, 24 months? You talked about sort of that phase up of having the amount of folks, and we're talking about a wage of $50 an hour, just trying to get an idea of how long we'd expect for folks to be earning that kind of wage within the city on a project like this.
So in our experience, construction schedules range from 12 to 24 months, okay, on average on this type of project. But I think the important point is that what we're seeing in the data center space today is that these are multi-phase projects that, could last for a decade or more. This is a long-term opportunity for everyone.
Thank you, Mr. Stewart. Chair Reamy, that's all my questions for Mr. Stewart.
Thank you, Councilmember Dorans. Do any of my other colleagues have any questions? All right, thank you much. Next, we have Superintendent Mark Tyler, he's the superintendent of the Hamilton Local School District. Superintendent Tyler, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much for the opportunity this evening. Just wanted to come on and say the Hamilton Local Schools is in support of this project, primarily because first and foremost, we know that this property will be developed. There is no question to that. We've had many a conversation with the property owner and their representation. We know that there is a motivated seller here. So this property, there is no realistic opportunity to maintain the way it is. We know it will be developed. From that, our next interest just becomes finding the best possible neighbor to be across the street, because this property sits directly across the street from our primary campus. Obviously, that's a great concern of myself and our Board of Education. So from that, we want to ensure that we have a great neighbor. Through the discussion process, we believe that we have that in this project here this evening. You've heard previously, we don't want to reiterate all of this, but the setbacks that were mentioned, the preservation of a third of the property is significant. We believe that we're hardly going to know that they're there. There is some concern on our part that property would otherwise develop as traditional warehouses, which would not be something that's desirable directly across the street with the traffic, et cetera. This project produces negligible impact on traffic. We think, again, we'll hardly know that they're there. Beyond that, the board has come to an agreement financially with the company already. We're very satisfied with that agreement. This does no damage to the Hamilton Local Schools in any way, and we want to encourage an affirmative vote this evening. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Superintendent Tyler. We appreciate you coming down. Are there any questions from my colleagues for Mr. Superintendent Tyler? Yes, Councilmember Dorans.
Mr. Tyler, could you share with us the total amount of the agreement that the district is expected to receive over the life of the agreement?
Yes, obviously those are all projections. It's dependent on the actual square footage that develops, but we would gain $1.11 per square foot for 15 years on each facility. Again, it just goes back to what the total build out would be, but we find that to be very satisfactory.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor.
Yeah.
Anybody else? All right. Thank you so much, Superintendent Tyler. Appreciate you coming in. And finally, this evening, but certainly not least, I would also like to call on City of Columbus Chief Diversity Officer, Demita Brown, to share a few words on the Memorandum of Understanding between Magellan Enterprises and the City of Columbus Office of Diversity and Inclusion. Chief Brown, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair Remy. Thank you, members of council. Appreciate the opportunity to speak on behalf of the legislation tonight, and specifically speak to the opportunities for both our small minority women business community, but as well as our Columbus residents, and opportunities for employment. Similar to our work with the Columbus crew on their diversity initiative, this opportunity gives us a great opportunity to advance the mayor's equity agenda, to increase our participation of small minority and women businesses in the development space, and to really help grow and build the baseline of our businesses able to compete in the broader market. We're excited about the work that is happening here in the partnership with Magellan Enterprises, and the Office of Diversity and Inclusion stands ready, willing, and able to support this effort moving forward. Thank you, Chair Remy.
Thank you very much, Chief Brown. Are there any questions for our great chief this evening? All right, seeing none, I will now, tonight we have two speakers signed up to speak on this particular ordinance. The first one is Mr. Joe Motil. Mr. Motil, you have 3 minutes to speak. Please state your name and any organization you may represent.
Thank you. Can everybody hear me? Hello? Can you hear me?
Yes, sorry.
Thank you. President Harden, Pro Tem Brown, members of City Council. No one's denying the importance of jobs that will be created by this data center. But when it comes to granting tax abatements to filthy rich corporations who don't need a dime of financial assistance, they can always count on the corporate socialism that comes from Columbus's democratically controlled mayor and city council. Whether it's a $68 million tax abatement for billion-dollar developer Georgetown and its Wexner partner of the Easton Development, $11 million for UPS, which is the largest package delivery company in the world, who had a net income of over $4 billion in 2019, or $77 million tax abatement for subsidiary Cover My Meds, which is owned by the McKesson Corporation, one of the largest, most profitable pharmaceutical companies in the world. So this evening, we have a greedy and cowardly multi-billion-dollar data operator who is asking for a $54 million tax abatement and is obviously so ashamed of themselves that they won't reveal themselves to the public due to the guaranteed criticism they would receive prior to another assured looting of public educational dollars and property taxpayers throughout Franklin County. And because City Council, which is supposed to but does not serve as a checks and balance to the mayor, but rather sleeps in the same bed as he, will once again ignore the voices of the people of the area commission that directly represents the surrounding area of this tax abatement. And never mind their no vote on the rezoning of this 500 acres or its historical and geological significance to Columbus. It's always about the city of Columbus prioritizing its nearly 80% of its operating costs from city income taxes and sacrificing its 6% of revenue from property taxes. So you just give it away. Over this 15-year tax abatement deal, the city will collect $750,000 of income tax revenue, while $1 billion filthy rich data center operator robs our property tax coffers of $54 million. You and Ginther continue to defund public education and adversely impact the lives of thousands of people while economically and socially depriving them of the opportunity to succeed. Tax abatements are directly correlated to poverty, housing discrimination, increasing homelessness, racism, disproportionate spending of tax dollars to selected areas of Columbus, foreclosures, and economic segregation. The recent TV show 60 Minutes segment on Columbus's homeless situation was a shameful testimony to the second most economically segregated city in America, in what you all like to call our opportunity city. Your definition of the Columbus way continues to serve only the rich and powerful corporations, businesses, and developers that control you and your irrational, disconnected policies. You give to the rich and sprinkle tax dollars to those in need of assistance while disregarding the root of our city's problems. And after you undoubtedly approve of this $54 million giveaway, you, along with Mayor Ginther, can lay claim to a truly historic moment in Columbus politics, having given away no less than $433 million in tax abatements over the last 65 months and $119 million just during the COVID pandemic. Thank you.
Great timing. Next, we have Speaker Mr. Wally Ober. Mr. Ober.
Yes. Can you see me?
Yep.
Yep. Okay. I'd like to thank you with the opportunity to speak in support. I'm Wally Obert. My address is 5172 Parsons Avenue. I live right across the street from this project. I've lived there for 40 years. I'm going on 70, and I've lived all 70 years in this community. I've been a member of Local 683 IBW for 48 years. I currently am on the school board, although I'm not speaking on behalf of the school board or the school. Superintendent Tyler has done that. What I am speaking as is a concerned citizen of the community, and in the past, just to show how much concern that my wife and we've raised 8 boys and 4 girls. We have 23 grandchildren. We help organize cleanup of Rathmill Road as the thoroughway of our communities that are in Columbus, Hamilton Township, and Obetz. We put flags up all the way from 23 to Lockbourne Road and beyond. We put the crosses up on the corner for 9 fatalities, and we haven't had a fatality there since we put the crosses up. They're currently being repaired and going to be put back up. I have 277 road footage onto this property development, and I wish we could stand still in time, but it isn't like that. We have to move on, and there's nothing more important than our education and our community. And as Mr. Tyler has said, we have come up with an agreement. I wish that we lived in a world that we would never have to give up a tax abatement, but it's just not in Columbus, Ohio. It's all over the country. I've been in construction for over 50 years. It's just not our problem. And to think that we're going to pass up this opportunity because, it's a tax abatement, that shouldn't happen. 6 years ago, we had a developer that came in and going to build 11 warehouses and could not tell us what they were going to store in those warehouses, along with the traffic.
Go ahead and finish your thought there, Mr. Ober.
It's just, it's unrealistic to think that land's going to sit there and not be developed or be developed residential. It's just not going to happen. And this is the best opportunity we have, not only for the community, but for our school district. And I'd appreciate the passage. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Obert. I appreciate your testimony this evening. We also received written testimony from the IBEW Local 683, President Patrick Hook and Dorsey Hager, the Executive Secretary and Treasurer of the Columbus Buildings Trades Council, in the, asking us to support this important legislation. I think, just looking at 10-year outlook, some very modest calculations of construction wages that are going to be created, well exceed $300 million on a low side in wages over the next decade. And, with those types of numbers and that type of economic generation coming into our community, it's really hard not to look at these opportunities and look at this partnership. I'm also appreciative of the work that the applicant has done with ODI and Chief Brown to, affirm their commitment to working in that space and lifting up that space, helping us in the city lift that space up as well. And so we are finalizing that, but, numbers that we should strive for are, similar to the crew, up to 30% MBE and WBE inclusion. And so we will be working very closely with them to achieve those goals. Director Stevens, do you have any comments that you'd like to make?
Thank you, President Hardin, Chair Ramey, members of council. The one point I'd like to note that with the expected jobs in the data center as well as the construction jobs, we're projecting approximately $1.3 million in annual income tax revenue to the city. Compare that, we will be abating the city's portion of the property tax, which is approximately $140,000 a year. Want to share that, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that council might have.
Do any of my colleagues have any questions for the director or any comments you'd like to make?
I do, Councilman Remy.
Councilmember Tyson.
Yes. So I just want to, I want to make sure maybe Scott Zion's still on the phone, since I think he was basically talking about, and I know that we're very much committed not only to this community, to Columbus, and they knew a lot about Columbus. They had done some focus groups, etc. But I also need, Director Stevens, I'm sorry, or it's Scott Zines who's representing them, to talk a little bit more about their commitment to this community. I mean, you've heard, the mention of homelessness. You've heard, obviously the Office of Diversity and Inclusion, with what, they're going to commit to trying to make sure that women and minorities have opportunities. But I want you to share with this community and with what kinds of things that as a community partner they're going to do besides the jobs, which I appreciate that. But what else has this company done in the past? And I also want to talk about, I want you to share their commitment, because I made this very clear, their commitment to meet with the Far South Area Commission to understand what their needs are, since it sits in that commission, to understand what their needs are. And that was why people didn't hear a lot of opposition from the commission, because of this commitment that was made. And I really want that commitment stated in this meeting tonight.
Sure. Councilmember Tyson.
It's good to see you also, Scott.
Absolutely. Go way back. So Councilmember Tyson, Chair Remy, President Hardin, council members, I can say a couple things, and thank you for those questions. First, again, I've been working with this company on projects throughout the country for a number of years. It's in their DNA about how they are involved in the community, and again, because of the competitiveness of this project in this industry, it's common in the data center industry not to reveal who they are until they're ready to. But again, Councilmember Tyson, I know you 20 years. I can assure you that you will be proud, and when they're identified, you will say, "Oh yes, I already see them doing these three things that I've heard about and that I know about. So I'll give some examples. They will, from their meetings with the Far South Area Commission, that they agreed to pretty significant setbacks. They're about a third of the space is going to be undeveloped, or at least, and preserving Spangler Hill and the pond. That was listening to the community and trying to figure out how they could be good neighbors. A second thing they did was we've had one or maybe two phone calls with the superintendent and his team to begin to discuss how to work with students. So what this team doesn't do, what they don't do is take a we know best approach. They take a listening approach. So they don't have a one size fits all. And they described that to Superintendent Tyler and his team about how once they make a commitment to a community to proceed with the project, and obviously tonight's a key part of that, they then have a community engagement team that tries to figure out what that community needs. So in some cases, it may be that that the local library doesn't have sufficient Wi-Fi for homework help and things like that. In some, it may be more of a focus on STEM that's needed. In some, it may be help with entrepreneurs and access to technology. So it's going to be part of that community listening engagement, not a top-down approach, but a community-focused approach. And again, I'm absolutely confident they're going to do that because they've done that before. I'll give one other example. They're very dedicated to making sure that all students and people that want to get involved in technology do not have to go the four-year college route. And so they've done things in that regard to engage students and people newly out of high school to get engaged in the technology sphere and get trained on the job so they can do these high-tech jobs where, again, you have 20 jobs making $2 million. Those are all well-paid jobs. So again, those are the types of things. Sorry if I'm blabbering a little bit, but again, I'm very confident you're going to be proud to have this community in Central Ohio, and you will know the things that they're doing right away.
I'm sorry, Scott. I do appreciate the answer you've given me. And I've said this to Director Stevens. I understand, everything you said, it's great for the community. I'm talking about the area commission, the Far South Area Commission. My understanding is, of course, there will be a person that is in that building that will be at a level that will be engaged in the community. I'm making sure that with all the things that I have personally heard. I also heard that, I made this really clear that I know that focus groups, they've held focus groups in Columbus, that they will have a focus group with this Far South Area Commission. That's what I need, that commitment stated in this right today, because that's what they have said to me. And so I understand, I understand all aspects of it, but you are in a community, and it isn't just, I appreciate the work of their commitment to the school, but that is not the area, that is not the Far South Area Commission.
Sure.
And I need that type of commitment.
Councilmember Tyson, if I may, and Deputy Director Quinton Harris is also on the line. I know he participated in some of those conversations with you and the applicant as well, so he can reaffirm this. Our commitment is, and we will make sure that the company lives up to their commitment to engage the Far South Area Commission. As our meeting with them last week, we want to engage this company and others down there. We will do that going forward from a development department perspective, but we will also push this applicant to be a champion down there as well and help rally some of the other companies. And that is, what we heard last week from the commissioners in our meeting with them. And I appreciate you setting that up. And that is aligned with what this company wants to do. Quinton, I know you were in some of those discussions with Councilmember Tyson and the company. And if you can affirm that, that'd be excellent.
Yes, Councilmember Tyson, after our meeting with the Far South Area Commission, I did follow up with the client and asked that specific question as it relates to when that follow-up would happen directly with the company and the community. They did commit that that meeting would occur sometime during the fourth quarter of this year, in 2021. After the land transaction occurs, as well as shoring up a prime, getting their permits in place, they would commit to meet with the community that before the project is built, that they would be able to have that input, so that when the project was operational 18 to 24 months from then, they would be able to start implementing projects in collaboration with the community when the doors of the facility opened.
Thank you. All right, thank you so much, Quentin. Thank you, Scott. It was just really important that we stated that, as you know, today, based on the meetings that we've had with the Far South Area Commission. And I know that they're probably watching, and I know that they'll be pleased that we asked these pointed questions in regards to them. And again, I think that that this organization certainly will be able to just their overall community service from just the meeting that I had with them. I think they'll be a committed partner, not only for the Far South Side, but for the city of Columbus. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilmember Tyson. Are there any other questions or comments from my colleagues? Councilmember Dorrance.
Dr. Stevens, I just wanted to run through the financials on this one more time with you. So my understanding that the money generated for the school district at minimum will be $9 million over the life of the agreement. Is that correct?
Thank you, Councilmember Dorrance. Based on the amount of money that the projected amount, yes, if at full build out, that is correct.
Thank you. And then getting back to, I'm not sure if it was Scott's comments or yours earlier, based upon the city portion that we would have received in property tax, the income tax generated by the jobs at the data center, which are limited to start, but the construction jobs at the expected market rate, that income tax far exceeds any amount that the city would lose in the property tax abatement. Is that correct?
That is correct. What we're abating on an annual basis is about 10% of what we're going to receive for the income tax.
Thank you, Director.
Any other questions or comments from my colleagues? Seeing none, I move for passage.
By voice.
Oh, thank you. By voice vote.
Second.
Clerk, please call the roll by voice.
Ms. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Dorrance?
Yes.
Ms. Faber?
No.
Mr. Remy?
Yes.
Ms. Tyson?
Yes.
President Harden?
Yes, ordinance passed.
Thank you very much. Next, let's see here. Where am I at here? Gotta get back in the mode. Next, I have ordinance 576 of 2021 to authorize the Director of Department of Development to enter into a grant agreement with Columbus Franklin County Finance Authority to provide funding for urban redevelopment projects, to authorize the appropriation and expenditure of $2 million from the Neighborhood Economic Development Fund, and to declare an emergency. The city will enter into a grant agreement with Columbus Franklin County Finance Authority in the amount of $2 million in order to provide gap financing for urban redevelopment projects within the city of Columbus. CFCFA program will provide funding for projects within the urban core and adjacent neighborhoods within the city in order to facilitate projects that will assist in the revitalization of properties in the urban core of the city as a whole. The long-term goal of the fund is to enable the CFCFA to help fill funding gaps for the redevelopment of smaller scale projects in traditional neighborhood corridors. These redevelopment projects encounter issues as older buildings can have amplified costs to bring up to current code and safety standards. This fund will allow CFCFA to provide flexible funding to fill these cost gaps for targeted projects in the city. This evening, we have Gene Ryan, President of the Columbus Franklin County Finance Authority, here to share a few words on this ordinance. Gene, the floor is yours.
Hi, Chair Remy, Council President Harden, and members of council. I really appreciate you being here tonight and working through a very full agenda. It just tells you what a great place Columbus is to do business and to be a place to live. The Finance Authority, you created us back in 2006 in conjunction with the Board of Commissioners of Franklin County. Since that time, we have financed over $2.8 billion in projects here in Columbus and Franklin County. We have invested that in over 150 projects. The types of things that we typically do is we issue bonds, both taxable and tax exempt, to support projects in and around the city of Columbus. We have our own bond fund program. It's rated A- by Standard & Poor's, which allows projects access to the national capital markets they couldn't get on their own. We have our own energy loan program, and we recently created a new neighborhood improvement and small business loan program using our own capital, for which our first loan was made. We created it this fourth quarter of last year. Our first loan in that program went to community development for all people, which I've heard mentioned many times this evening. So we're really excited about that particular program. We're looking right now to do another project in Franklinton with a nonprofit on Sullivan Avenue. That looks like that may be our very next project. So we're really engaged with you and your strategies and what you're trying to achieve in Columbus, to not just work with the business community, but others to really help bring people up. This would be our fourth urban redevelopment grant that we would be receiving from the city of Columbus. The other projects, they're just sort of unique projects where we work really closely with the city and the development staff to determine what are the needs that need to be filled, that maybe you need a unique financing source to help make that happen. So for example, some of the other things that we've done with the previous grants, we worked with the trolley barn project on the Near East Side. As many of you know, that's a really complicated and unique project with different types of tax credits to bring to bear a project where our goal in that one is the fresh food market. So we have in place a forgivable loan with the developer that as long as they keep that fresh food market open, again, something that the neighborhood needs, then we will forgive that loan over a period of years. Another one of the projects that we've done with these urban redevelopment loans is we made a loan to another developer to keep a garage open and be able to improve it downtown. We all know how important parking is, and you just don't, it's impossible for developers to make money off of parking traditionally. So it's a loss leader. How do you then get folks to reinvest in parking, and office clients require it? So we made a loan, $1 million, and are receiving interest, and that's not being forgiven, but nevertheless, it's a good project for us to be able to assist an important part of downtown with solve some parking issues. And lastly, the third project that we invested is Fortuity, again in Franklinton, right on Broad Street. We invested in that project where they're looking to create a call center with wraparound services and really provide jobs for folks in Franklinton to allow them to start at a lower level and be able to work their way up and have services that really will allow folks in that neighborhood to actually have jobs, keep jobs, and be able to create a better life for themselves. So in that case, we put together a $750,000, again, a forgivable loan, where, again, the issue is parking. And as long as they keep some public parking, 150 plus spaces available, then we're going to forgive that loan over a period of years. So those are the types of projects and things that we get involved in. I'm happy to answer any questions about who we are, what we do, and how we work with city staff.
Thank you. I appreciate the insight and to get a little bit more knowledge. Do any of my colleagues have any questions for Ms. Ryan? Director Stevens, do you have any comments that you'd like to make about this important legislation?
President Harden, Chair Remy, members of council, tonight you have seen us highlighting a lot of the economic development tools we used and the different ways we use them to encourage job growth, investment, and other public policy priorities that we have in the city. I'm thankful that Jean was able to join us this evening and share some of the great work she's doing at the Finance Authority, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Do any of my colleagues have any questions about the legislation?
Councilmember Remy.
Councilmember Tyson.
This is, I just want to just mention that I'm very excited about the trolley barn and especially for the fresh food market. Certainly as, I've been focused on with Commissioner O'Grady, making sure that our community has access to healthy food, affordable food, and local food, that to be able to have a fresh food market on the Near East Side is something that is definitely needed. So very excited about that project. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Tyson. Anyone else? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Second.
I'll just add that I'm also a big fan of the Finance Authority and my friend Jean Ryan in capable hands moving this project forward. So please call the roll.
Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, Tyson, President Harden.
Passed.
And that is all I have in the Economic Development Committee this evening. May I proceed to the Environment Committee?
Please, Mr. Chair.
Thank you again. I have 4 items in the Environment Committee this evening. The first is Ordinance number 497, 2021, to authorize the Director of Finance and Management to establish purchase orders and associate relevant purchase agreements with multiple vendors for the purchase of refuse collection containers and parts, to authorize the expenditure of up to $1 million from the Refuse Bond Fund for the purchase of these containers and parts, to authorize the purchase of more than $100,000 from an individual universal term contract established for the purchase of refuse containers and parts, and to declare an emergency. The Department of Public Service Division of Refuse Collection utilizes 96-gallon, 300-gallon, 8 cubic yard roll-off containers and other types of as needed in its mechanized collection system for residential trash collection. The division also requires replacement parts for containers that are not covered by warranties. The purchasing office has completed bidding or has established universal term contracts for the purchase of these commodities. This legislation authorizes the Director of Finance Management to establish purchase orders for the Division of Refuse Collection from established universal term contracts or completed bids. Tonight, I have the Administrator, Mr. Tim Swager, for the Division of Refuse here to provide some additional details regarding this important ordinance. Tim, the floor is yours.
Thank you, President Harden, Chair Remy, rest of council. This ordinance here is for us to maintain the 400,000 containers that we have in the field. So there's about 200,000 residential 96-gallon containers, and then we have the 64-gallon recycling containers. This allows us to just conduct our daily business of repairing and replacing containers. It also has been used to change from 300 gallons to 90s wherever we can in the city. We've changed out over 5,000 of those containers, and we'll continue that process throughout this year. And that's what mainly this ordinance accomplishes.
Thank you, sir. Are there any questions or comments from my colleagues? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Second.
Please call the roll.
Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, Tyson, President Harden.
Passed.
Next, I have ordinance number 521, 2021, to authorize the expenditure of $17,391,000 or so much thereof as may be necessary for the special income tax fund to pay 2021 waste disposal tipping fees, tire disposal, construction debris disposal, and radiation remediation services for the Division of Refuse Collection. To authorize the Director of Public Service to establish an encumbrance of $17,331,000 to pay refuse tipping fees to the Solid Waste Authority of Central Ohio for the Division of Refuse Collection pursuant to an existing lease agreement. To authorize the Director of Public Service to modify and extend a radiation and remediation service contract with Solution Technologies to establish encumbrances up to $10,000 for tire disposal and construction debris material disposal, to establish an encumbrance up to $50,000 for a radiation remediation services contract with Solution Technologies, and to declare an emergency. This legislation authorizes the Director of Public Service to establish an encumbrance within the Special Income Tax Fund pay 2021 waste disposal tipping fees for the Division of Refuse Collection and to expend funds to pay the tipping fees. This expense is necessary to safely and contractually dispose of the waste collected by the division in the course of pursuing its mission by providing residential refuse collection services to over 320,000 households weekly, picking up bulk items and illegally dumped items as needed, and to provide radiation remediation services to process quarantine loads at SWACO tipping sites. SWACO tipping fee rates are determined by SWACO's established rate setting policy due to an existing contractual relationship with the City of Columbus. Where the City of Columbus participates in the rate setting process, the city is required to use SWACO waste disposal services. The vendors and waste disposal fees for tire disposal services and construction demolition material disposal services will be determined through the city's competitive bidding process. The existing contract for radiation remediation was created by using a competitive bidding process that resulted in a one-year contract with the option of renewing for 3 additional years. Tim Swager, welcome back. Could you provide any additional details regarding this item?
Yeah, thanks again. Yeah, this is our way that we dispose of our municipal waste trash down at the SWACO landfill. It also allows for us, when we do illegal dumping, we collect some of that material that is banned from going down there, and also the tires. So it allows for the disposal of that. Last year we saw about a 12% increase, mainly we believe related to the COVID, people staying at home, generating more refuse waste. So our fees went up last year, our total tonnage went up, so our cost went up. We built a little bit into that this year, and with the anticipation that as the vaccine comes along and people start going back to work, that we'll see it return to more normal levels. Last year we ended up collecting almost $1 million more in waste, and that's why we've been working towards an education campaign to get people to recycle more as well. But this allows us to expend the funds to send our municipal waste down to the landfill.
Thank you, Tim. Are there any questions or comments from my colleagues in regards to this? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Second.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, Tyson, President Harden.
Pass.
Next, I have ordinance number 583, 2021, to authorize the Director of the Department of Public Service to renew the contract with Rumpke of Ohio, Inc. for yard waste and recycling collection services, to authorize the expenditure of $5,940,336 from the general fund and $3,600,000 from the street construction maintenance repair fund for the 5th year of the contract, and to declare an emergency. This ordinance authorizes the Director of Public Service to renew a contract to add funds for year 5 of the collection services of yard waste and recyclables 2017 contract with Rumpke of Ohio, Inc. in the amount of $9,540,336, and to authorize the Director of Public Service to execute contract modifications if needed to clarify terms and conditions of the contract or to implement program improvements and enhancements. Continuation of a separate collection for yard waste recyclable items is necessary to segregate them from the regular waste stream. This serves to extend the life of the landfill operated by SWACO. The collection of services of yard waste and recyclable contract provides biweekly collection of recyclables and yard waste for residences servicing of recycling containers deployed along Broad Street and High Street as part of the pedestrian recycling program. Last pickup from restaurants and bars along North High Street as part of the Recycle on High program, and recyclable collection services for the solar compactors deployed in the Short North area. The Department of Public Service issued a bid in 2016 to establish a contract to replace the expiring collection services of yard waste and recyclables contract. City Council approved awarding this contract to Rumpke via Ordinance 479, 2017, passed by Council on March 13, 2017. Contract is a 5-year contract expiring March 31st, 2022, with 5 one-year renewal options. The contract does include a fuel price adjustment, so the contract amount could increase or decrease according to the changes in the price of diesel fuel. Tim, welcome back. Could you provide some additional details regarding this particular item?
Yes, sir. As you mentioned, this is the 5th year of the contract. This has the collection of the recyclables. It's a set amount. So if we increase the amount of recyclables that we get as citizens and we bring more into the stream, it actually helps offset that tipping fee one that we just passed right before this. So we're going to work with our partners at SWACO to really try to educate and increase. And then we're happy to announce earlier this year in January that Rumpke is now taking butter tubs and yogurt cups. So they've expanded what now can be recycled. So we're going to try to push that message out because this is what allows us to extend the life of the landfill. And it also we can see a cost savings on our tipping fees the more we recycle. So this is the 5th year and final year of that original contract with now we have 5 additional years, 1-year contracts that we can assess after this.
I'm sorry, negotiations are ongoing with Rumpke in regards to these operations.
We're currently exploring our options on that as to what our next step will be.
Got it. Are there any questions or comments from my colleagues on this piece? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Second.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, Tyson, President Harden.
Pass.
All right. And then finally, I have Ordinance 644, 2021 to amend the 2020 capital improvements budget to authorize the transfer of budget authority between projects within the General Permanent Improvement Fund, waive the competitive bidding requirements of the Columbus City Code, Chapter 329, to authorize the Director of Public Service to execute a contract with Rubicon for the provision of GPS tracking and route diagnostics for the Division of Refuse Collection, to authorize appropriation in the General Permanent Improvement Fund, to authorize the expenditure of up to $189,140 from the General Permanent Improvement Fund, and to declare an emergency. The aforementioned project will allow the Division of Refuse Collection to maximize efficiencies and to assess streets for potholes, illegal dumping, and other street maintenance as the vehicles travel around their assigned routes. Rubicon is an on-demand routing solution that will interface with the existing routing software systems, Lucidity, and GIS. The process enhances efficiencies for the Division of Refuse Collection, creating a streamlined option to develop optimized bulk collection and container management routes each day. Drivers receive the routing instructions through iPhones leased by Rubicon Global LLC, and the routes are developed through an online portal that will pull in all relevant information for that day. The phones also allow the drivers to take before and after pictures to confirm service. Administrator Swire, could you provide some additional details on this piece of legislation?
Yes, certainly. Thanks again. On this piece of legislation, what this allows us to do is on the bulk scheduling, we have about 12,000 bulk schedules every month. And currently our process is a paper process where we get those scheduled through 311, we print them off. An employee would sort through those based on the day, determine their route, and go through it. This software allows that to automatically go from 311 into a software program that will route our trucks the most efficient manner. And then in addition to that, we have an ability to take photos of before and after, which instantly get back to us and the 311 call center. So if a bulk set out's not out, we could see that instantly. We could document that. That way, if a resident will call back in and say, hey, we missed it, we can have the detailed information. And if they've got illegal materials or improper materials, we can photograph and have documentation of that right onto the system. What this allows us to do is be much more efficient. And additionally to that, we have noticed some tendencies. We piloted this project for the last 6 months, and we were able to pick up some tendencies that we're seeing, like a lot of our white goods don't exist when they're out there. Now we're working on some examples of, so if someone's putting a stove out, it's getting picked up probably by scrappers before we get there. Well, that's not getting canceled before we get there. So we're sending a truck out to the house to pick it up. It's gone. So we're working through some new, because of this software and because we've now been able to recognize that, we're working on some push notification type stuff that would allow people to cancel ahead of time if it's gone that morning, and then our trucks could automatically be rerouted and we wouldn't lose those efficiencies. So out of 12,000 bulk pickups scheduled, we're seeing a couple hundred of those each week be gone when we get there. So there's even more efficiencies to be gained through this system. Then the second part of the Rubicon software allows us to document other things while we're driving. I've often touted, council member, as you know, Refuse is the one division that drives every street in the city every week. So we're up and down every street. So we can be data collectors. And that's what the second part of this Rubicon software will allow us to explore. We're going to be doing some pilot programs to explore how can we collect data on potholes or down stop signs, things of that nature, that we can help public service and possibly other departments use that data to be more efficient as well.
Yeah, it was pretty impressive. We did a software demo a couple weeks ago, and just on signs, looking at, you know, when a sign is broken, or I think the potential to help the Department of Public Service in particular with potholes and other miscellaneous things that could occur is tremendous, and certainly could offer potential cost savings in the future. Do any of my colleagues have any questions about this particular piece of legislation? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Clerk,
Second.
thank you. Clerk, please call the roll.
Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy Tyson, President Harden.
Passed.
And finally, that is all I have this evening. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The final committee to come before council is the Health and Human Services Committee. The committee is chaired by Councilmember Tyson. Councilmember, the floor is yours. I think we're having technical difficulties with Councilmember Tyson's feed.
Council President, I apologize. We're unable to view or hear Councilmember Tyson. Like we lost her here for a moment.
Okay. Do we want to take a 5-minute recess?
Sure. We'll give her a call to try and help out. Thank you, sir.
1 second. There, she's back. Yay.
I got knocked out of WebEx, so I'm back.
Awesome. Well, Councilmember, the floor is yours.
Yes, okay.
Do you need, we can fill for some more time. We did a good job in that 2 minutes.
Okay, let me just, I don't know what's going on here. Oh, they're calling, wait a second. Oh, goodness. I don't need, all right. What I'm gonna do is just, all right, I'm just gonna do my legislation over here. I don't know what happened.
No, it's fine.
That's, so here, let me just read it. For some reason it's not.
Dorrance, how are your Bobcats doing?
Oh.
Not well.
Oh,
too soon.
Sorry. Sorry, Councilor Tyson, the floor is yours.
That's okay. That's okay. I can't get it. All right. So I have ordinance 415-2021 is to authorize and direct the Board of Health to accept grants from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services in the amount of $180,000 and any additional funds for the ending of HIV epidemic grant program, and to authorize an appropriation of $180,000 and any additional funds from the unappropriated balance of the Health Department grant fund, and to authorize the city auditor to transfer appropriations between object classes for the ending the HIV epidemic grant program and to declare an emergency. The purpose of this grant is to focus resources in jurisdictions with substantial HIV burden to implement strategies, interventions, and approaches and core medical support services to reduce new HIV infections in the United States. The overarching goal for this initiative is to reduce new HIV infections in the United States to less than 3,000 per year by 2030. And if there are no questions or comments, I move for passage.
Second.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Brown, Dorrance, favor, Remy Tyson, President Harden.
Passed.
Thank you. The next ordinance is ordinance 571-2021, and is to authorize and direct the Board of Health to accept a grant from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services for the Healthy Start Grant Program in the amount of $1,144,121 to authorize the appropriation of $1,144,121 from the unappropriated balance of the Health Department's Grants Fund and to declare an emergency. The grant program is from April 1 of 2021 to March 31st of 2022, and the Healthy Start Grant Program enables Columbus Public Health to conduct an evidence-based home visiting program in Franklin County. It's primarily focusing on African American women residing within the City of Columbus zip codes. And the Healthy Start program is funded to serve 700 clients, of which 300 are pregnant women, 300 are infants and children up to the age of 18 months, preconception women, interconception women, and 100 fathers and male partners affiliated with the Healthy Start Women, Infants, and Children program. Clients receive education on pregnancy, women's health, infant growth, development, safety, nutrition, immunizations, breastfeeding, and safe sleep. If there are no questions or comments, I move for passage.
Second.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy Tyson, President Harden.
Ordinance
Thank you.
passed.
That concludes Health and Human Services for this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Seeing no further business come before council, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy Tyson, President Harden.
Our meeting is adjourned. We have one non-agenda speaker. Miss Angie, is Josephus?